respect. But we are really trying to increase that amount to what is provided in our policy guidelines. The only problem is we have competing interests, honorable members. But we are really trying. But in terms of releasing capitation, the moment we release money now before schools are open. Construction of constituency industrial development centers, how is it distributed? It's done by a Ministry of MSMEs. So I think this one can be directed, Honorable, my friend Robbie, to MSMEs. They know the criteria and formula that they use. On outcry on EGP has gone down. That has really gone down. Now, almost every department has picked up. Honorable Pukosi, the Vice Chair, what have we achieved so far on the EGP? I think I've addressed that. But when I have committed myself on EGP, Treasury Single Account, I will come, and all the reforms that we have initiated, I will come with a more comprehensive report to the National Assembly on the 11th of June. We left Hustler Fund. No, we have just allowed now Hustler Fund to largely operate on refinancing because they should be collecting, recovering the loans and disbursing. So we have provided little amount. NOTA is also supported by development partners. So they are running parallel. There are different initiatives and targeting different people because NOTA we are starting with training and we are starting with many other programs and then giving this startup capital. KRA investment, I think I answered that. Auditor General pointed out the weaknesses in internal audit of KRA. Yeah, I think we are working on reforms in KRA, including their internal audit department, and also trying to have National Treasury to give capacity. My peers here requested for some support for internal audit of the National Treasury. I rejected his request for more funding, but I think we'll consider it in 2026, 27. Now you can see, I even reject the request from my peers so that we don't spend anything more this year. And that shows you we are doing something to consolidate on fiscal consolidation. I think I will end there.
Thank you, Waziri. Just to inform you that the Honorable Mashako has two presidential candidates. One in Linda Wananchi, another one in United Opposition. In the next 2 months, we'll make a decision on which one to support. But he's likely to come to broad-based government. So when you see him, treat him very well. Members, before I allow more questions, I want us to agree that you don't ask questions which have been asked. Yeah, so that we make progress. So let's start with the Honorable Dr. Lilian Gogo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I want to thank the Honorable CS Treasury in National Planning for the kind of engagement that you have with Wananchi, especially in demystifying your office and making you be easily accessed by Wananchi, because that's a very, very sensitive office. There was this mention of the contingency fund. And is there a possibility that it could be used, especially when we have disasters like what has happened today in Gilgil? May the souls of our young ones rest in peace. And you find that the damage is insurmountable, and I don't know where and how this school is going to be repaired, and it's a public school. Number two, Honorable CS, is there a way of structuring in a way that would be more productive for the informal mining sector? For the longest, we have had informal mining sector. I don't know how monies from this miners are obtained, whether it is, I don't know, does anybody ever think about it? And then this we do with the intention of making improvements on their working conditions to the extent that we don't have the many occurrences of mines collapsing and killing the miners. And finally, Honorable CS, we used CDF to do so many of ICT hubs and most of them are just lying idle in the constituencies. I don't know what could be done about this. I thank you.
Thank you. Waziri on Namiko, that is the agency that's in charge of mining. We noted that they have zero development allocation. Maybe we need to respond. You may need to respond to that as we progress. The Honorable Dr. Babu Oino. Then from there we go to you. All of you will ask questions, members.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Waziri, I want to ask a question on fuel. If you look at our geography, the map of Iran and other countries, you find that after Iran on your left, you get there's Qatar, then there's Bahrain, then there's United Arab Emirates, then again there's also Iraq at the top. Then further left, you get Saudi Arabia. Then we are being told, Waziri, by the government, that the reason why there's an increment in fuel prices is because the Strait of Hormuz has been bombed, and therefore transportation of fuel is not possible. When you look at the Strait of Hormuz on the map, it is attached just next to, it is attached to Iran. Kenya gets its fuel from Iraq. The major supplier of fuel that we receive is from Iraq, which is on the farthest left, surrounded by the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. Waziri, explain to me like a +1 dropout, and also like an actuary, first class honors actuarial science. Why Saudi Arabia does not use the Red Sea to transport fuel, but instead must use the Strait of Hormuz, which is extremely far, to transport fuel to Kenya. In addition to that, Waziri, why is it that Uganda, the price of fuel in Uganda, is so less than that price of fuel in Kenya, yet Uganda receives its fuel through Kenya? Then lastly, Waziri, in this financial year 2026-2027, we've allocated 845.2 billion for development. The budget that we are working on,
point of information.
Please inform me.
Abu, I want to inform you that fuel prices in Uganda is higher than in Kenya. Just to confirm.
What is the fuel price in Uganda?
Kenya right now, do you know the price of Kenya now?
My brother,
I'm telling you, in Uganda right now, there is not even enough fuel, and the prices are more than 200.
Now, let me make my submission. Maybe that is Uganda Limited you are referring to, but not the Uganda that I'm referring to.
Yes.
So, Waziri, let me just proceed. In development, we've allocated 845.2 billion. And we have a total budget of 4.819 trillion. So therefore, Waziri, the amount of money that we've placed aside for development is only 17%, approximately 17%, which means that 3.9 trillion is used in other expenses, on other expenses. So Waziri, why do we run a country? Help me understand why we can run a country where 82.47% of the money that we put on budget is just to pay other expenses, yet only 17% is used for development. And again, Waziri, when you look at 2025-2026, the budget for development was 879.2 billion, with a budget of 4.69 trillion. The last financial year's budget in terms of development is more than this financial year's budget, by 34 billion Kenya shillings. Waziri, what are we running? Are we really running a country? So, lastly, Waziri, I want you to help me understand. You as Waziri, an intellectual, what time do you work, Waziri? I see you working a lot. You are everywhere trying to explain government policies. And I'm saying that this accountant should be sitting and only sleeping for 2 hours, agonizing over these challenges facing Kenyans. And I hope I won't see you in Kisumu, Waziri, after this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's have Honorable Ali Wario and then the Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. With regional balance. Chair, I was, I didn't go to school. Honorable Babu is a professor. But he doesn't know that 29% of the budget goes to education, which is almost recurrent. He doesn't know. Him and his brother. So, Waziri, I had a reason to ask about the CEO equalization. The equalization fund is just idling. It is not helping our region. And I don't know why. Maybe it is political, but it is not helping. It is there. It's just a merry-go-round. Waziri, I'm coming from a very marginalized county, which you have visited and you saw it. In fact, I really thank you. You have put our county in the regional maps. Tana River was not there. There is a lot of marginalization in budget. In fact, since independence, Chair, where there is water, all budget of water is going to where there is water. Since Martha Karua was a CS for water and irrigation, the money for roads goes to where there is road, up to the bedroom. Even now, it is very sad that Tana River has no single budget for tarmac road. Very sad, Waziri, because when we came to broad-based, we thank the President, he took our experts. And we really thank you because you are working and our chair here to address those historical injustices. And at least make a history to make at least some few inch of tarmac roads in Tana River. If we see today the Department for Roads presented the budget and they say there is a reallocation of 2.96 billion for roads, for equitable distribution of low volumes seal tarmac road. We requested for the list because we expect all regions to be touched. It is sad that I have my chair from broad-based and the CS when Tana River is not in that list. It will be very sad and shameful to us. So I want that equity to happen, or if not possible, the entire equalization fund should be reallocated to tarmac roads in our regions. Because it is not useful, it is not helping. Because one time, the chair was here, the entire, before broad-based, the political parties fund was removed. I proposed that some of the money from equalization fund to be moved to fund the activity of political parties, because this country is run through political parties. So even now I'm proposing the budget for equalization to be taken to at least for some tarmac roads in our regions, so that we feel the luxury as other Kenyans see. Lastly, Waziri, we are progressing well. I think put more emphasis so that those bridges, even right now, our children during this flood, they are crossing the river using the canoes. It is not completed. we ask for those bridges to be completed so that we can enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ruto Busia Odinga.
Thank you very much, Bwana. Thank you for the chair for finally making me know that I come from a very marginalized family, not even marginalized member of your community, of your budget committee. I was the first person to ask you that I wanted to talk, and I know you are doing this because you want to prove a point. But the reason why I was asking for the PPP was because I wanted to ask a question on Soin Dam, CS. And you've answered me, but I'm not been satisfied because it seems like it is coming way back. And this Soin Dam has been one of the very, very big thorns we have in our region, and you know exactly why we want to know about it. Secondly, you know, in the supplementary, we did put the 20 billion. I know somebody had asked that one, but specifically 20 billion for KRA on enhancing of revenue. And I would like to know the status of that at this particular moment, whether that has happened. And finally, I'm just interested in knowing that we have this, where in the 2026-27 physical framework is this anticipated sale of the Safaricom shares and the privatization of the KPC. Yeah, where is it going to sit in the budget? Is it going to be the revenue financing side, or is it going to be an off-budget? Point of information. Yeah.
Do you want to be informed, Honorable Ruth Odinga?
May I inform you, on your additions, I forgot about Kosiga Dam. So as you're talking of Korusoin, please add Kosiga Dam there, because CS never talked about it last time, please.
Proceed, Honorable Ruth Odinga.
Yeah. Thank you. I think he's already heard about that. So I would like to know where it's going to sit on that, because, you know, one of the reasons was for it to ease on the borrowing, that aspect. So those are the main ones. And I hope that as you are answering them, you will realize that I'm actually the person who's bullied in Kenya more than anybody else. Thank you, Mr. CS.
Honorable Kitilai.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Waziri. Mine are simple two questions. The first one is, Waziri, what is the real position of the Ministry or the Treasury about funding RDS, Regional Development Authorities? Because it's appearing like they're in between. They're not sure whether they're going to fund it or they are going to fund it. The second question is, sometimes about a year and a half, the President visited the Masaguro leather factory and he pledged a sum of 400 million on the spot because he was so impressed with the work of the leather factory. And I can see the leather factory and the same communication or presidential directive was followed up at the OP and it was communicated in the Treasury by Hopes. And I can see you allocated 44 million, and we have been accused, even by villagers, because he made a declaration at an announcement at a public rally that the Treasury is not implementing presidential directive. People are really following, and that leather factory is really very important to the pastoralist community, and especially I like your remark about the marginalized area. Narok is one of the most marginalized areas in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gichuki.
Yeah, thank you very much, Waziri. First of all, I would want to confirm that the CS is more productive as a CS of Treasury and Economic Planning than he was when he was my chairman of Public Accounts Committee. That means that he is doing a very good job. But my question, extremely productive, the chair of Public Accounts Committee. So my question is, maybe CS, what is the current percentage of debt to our GDP? And how are you planning to improve it? Second question, what is our current percentage of savings to GDP? Third, what is our current tax revenues that we collect to GDP. Maybe if you can tell us, then we can be able. So, and you let us know how are you trying to improve some of these percentages to GDP. But now, Waziri, the question I have, and I know most of the members would want to ask here, you know, the paper that you have given us gives a very positive outlook of what is happening in the country. But also there is public anger. You know, people are saying there is no money in their pockets. Fuel prices have gone up. Especially, what are the measures are you coming up with? You know, the relief measures to Kenyans. So that even if the fuel prices have gone up, then probably there are other measures, and I know maybe you are going to elaborate more, to try and caution Kenyans, Waziri, because we agree the government has done a lot, but you know, the unemployment rates maybe will continue going up. I know the rates have gone down, the interest rates have gone down, the exchange rate is is a bit stable, but that intervention that is touching the ordinary Kenyan there in terms of what remains in their pockets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kuton. Okay, Honorable Kanjiku.
Thank you, Chair. I would want to build on what Dr. Mogo has said, especially on this particular budget, Waziri. And first and foremost, we need to congratulate you because, I mean, people are listening to you, which we missed in the other few years ago, that people are able to understand whatever is going on and whatever is. And I want to encourage you, keep doing this, having conversation with the people, because at the end of the day, even if Chikati confessed that the people in Tondaren, they don't see whatever happened in the social media. Even if it's local stations, keep engaging, because at the end of the day, what you're missing is the misinformation. On this particular budget, Waziri, about 4.9 trillion, 4.8 trillion, how much are we?
Chair, correction, just because for record purposes.
Yes.
People are not missing misinformation. Just correct it, my brother. You just said people are missing misinformation.
I say there is a lot of misinformation outside there. That is actually what I was trying to say. But Waziri, how much are we going to correct for this particular year, and how much are we borrowing to finance this particular budget? Two, we need to keep talking about this war. People are taking it like a joke. And I think it is high time also to come out openly and say what are we expecting in the next few two or so, or 3 months or 6 months, depending on this war of land and animals, because we're gonna get some challenges as we move forward, but we are not informing people exactly what is happening because people are ignorant. And that's why you see that people are taking information that whatever fuel or whatever the cost of fuel is not affected in war in the land. And you cannot take them away from that. The government is trying to do some jargon around it and collect more money, but it's not affected by what is going on in the land. The last one is on the fiscal deficit, as you have said. I sit in the Committee of Housing. There is a very serious, and we have seen what the president is trying to do, especially with the housing, the markets and all that. But we are learning a risk that if the Ministry of Housing is not well funded, all those contractors who have been given jobs, they may put their tools down in the next maybe probably 1 year or so. And there is a very big appetite from the Ministry of Housing seeking to be added 150 billion shillings out of whatever you have allocated them or whatever you have increased. So what we tend to do, because they are saying if this is not factored in this physical space and in this budget, they will not be able to fund, they will not be able to pay contractors, and probably the works that they have, contracts that they have given out, maybe probably so many contractors will have to put their tools down because they cannot continue funding. So what do you intend to do? Are we going to find another crisis in the next 2 or 3 months, and maybe something that we could have factored in within this budget?
Thank you very much, Honorable Aseka. And lastly, we'll have Honorable Mashako, and then we close.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, CS. We are proud of you as our expert in the broad-based government. I have 2 questions. One, do we have a vote called Cabinet Secretary? Because of late we've seen Cabinet Secretaries complaining that they are not being well facilitated? And if there is a vote for cabinet secretaries, why is that vote not being funded to facilitate our cabinet secretaries? Two, I've just asked the CS, who is an expert and is a cabinet secretary, and maybe he has the same vote that he enjoys and others don't enjoy. Two cabinet CS, we have many counties that have misappropriated donor funds. Kusip, Floka, these are donor funds that will be paid by Kenyans. What are you doing to ensure that these county governments, these governors, county officials who have misappropriated these funds are called to account and not transfer this to ordinary Kenyans? Lastly, I've seen you move around the country trying to disseminate the issues within your ministry. Does it mean Treasury does not have a communication unit? Because there is a lot of misinformation about finance bill across the country by the united opposition and their agents. In this house, we have Makali Mulu, we have Mashako, we have Babuino. They are really misinforming Kenyans about finance bill. What are you doing about it?
Yes, Mashako.
I need my security to be enhanced, Chair.
You are safe.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a bit short. Fine. I congratulate the CS. You're doing a good job, plus your peers. Honestly, we're happy with what you're doing. And my only question would be, you have put in a lot of, reforms. You're doing so much in the ministry that we can see, we can tell. But when we left Parliament, you didn't have such white share. And I think the white share is increasing. But I want to ask, how long should Kenyans expect relief in their pockets with the changes you're making in Treasury? Well, as someone has alluded, Kenyans are they still feel burdened, they still feel the reforms are not translating to money in the pockets, particularly in reducing inequalities. I think people are getting richer, but the majority of Kenyans are still struggling. They can't take their children to school, they can't afford a meal. We come from constituencies, some of us come from rural constituencies, where it is really a problem, including feeding their children. And as you know, feeding program for school is not universal. There are areas that, like many areas that don't get feeding program in schools. And for us to relieve these parents, I think it would be important to even think about, universal feeding program in our schools and create a budget line for it, so that then families can start feeling relief. But having said that, Chair, I want to commend the Ministry, Treasury. You've doubled capitation to TVETs. And I think yesterday the Departmental Committee Chair of Education indicated that you're moving the capitation for TVETs from 4 billion to 9 billion. I think that is commendable. My only request to you is that there has been a problem in timing. Many times you disburse capitation to TVETs at a time where many of those students have already dropped out. So by the time TVET money gets to institutions and their pocket, the money that comes to their accounts gets into their pockets, they're already at home. So I'm requesting that the new budget cycle disburse this money in time, so that then we can have our children staying in school and learn, including help. We are aware that in August, September, we'll have our first years going to universities. Please provide that money in good time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Babu, one question on county government. I think let's allow him to ask, then we can close.
Thank you, Chairman. Waziri, there was a cooperation that was signed between the national government and the county government of Nairobi. After the governor of Nairobi gave up his responsibilities to the national government, and Waziri, the national government, through the executive, did say that there's 80 billion Kenya shillings that was supposed to be donated to the county government of Nairobi. When we look at the current budget, Waziri, This 80 billion has not been budgeted for. Where is this money going to come from, or it was just a mere statement of puff or misrepresentation of facts? Lastly, Waziri, I would like to inform Mheshimiwa Robi that the fuel price in Uganda per liter is $1.45 US, which is approximately 187. I would like to inform Mheshimiwa Robi that the fuel price in Uganda is approximately $1.45 US, which is approximately 187 Kenya shillings. So petrol. So Mheshimiwa Robi, stop thinking in installments. Lastly, Mheshimiwa Wario did.
I didn't give you a chance to respond. Respond to your colleagues.
I just said, Mheshimiwa,
ask your questions and then the Treasury will respond.
Yeah, you are giving the incoming governor a lot of
reaction. Banter should not be allowed. The Honorable Waziri, I think now I want to give you the opportunity to respond to the questions.
Chairman, Babu does not even visit Uganda. I was in Uganda over the weekend. There is a crisis in Uganda.
Thank you.
And the fuel,
Thank you. I think
and fuel pump is 260.
Let's allow the minister who is here with his team of experts to give us answers on the questions we have. If we begin to answer ourselves, I don't think we don't need to have the Treasury people coming here. Remember, let's remain quiet and allow the CS, Dr. Gichuki, let's allow the CS to respond. I'll give you some space later.
Maybe, Chair, as the CS answers, CS, you can also comment on the audit of the public debt. Because when you became the CS, you said that you commissioned or you asked for an audit on public debt. So you can mention.
Dr. Gichuki, that is a matter in the domain of the Committee on Public Debt. I would like to ask that matter should be addressed elsewhere. Let us focus on the budget estimates, please. Waziri, please respond.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Dr. Gogo, Lillian, and actually, I think the first one was a complimentary public participation. To add on this public participation, that this year, I personally led public participation in a number of areas. For the wider Nyanza region, we did in Migori. The former Western Province, we did in Kakamega. The former Rift Valley Province was Nakuru. And we also did Eldoret because you see Rift Valley is expansive. We did in Kiambu for the former Central Province, and then we did Meru for the former Eastern. We did Kilifi for the former Coast Province. Unfortunately, I did not do Northeastern. And also Nairobi we did in monetary studies. So it was very elaborate, and I wanted just to leave here that we are mobilizing people. It's very open, and one of the things that I made sure I did was that we got representation from all sectors. There is no single venue we went to where there was no National Chamber of Commerce present, and their top leadership, and the leadership of Boda Boda and the rest. And I was sitting in the audience. Actually, they were running the show. On contingency funds, yes, we could apply it in buildings, but only if the line ministry does not have money, or the State Department. If they don't have money to intervene, then definitely they will request a contingency. On the informal mining sector, I think there's a lot being done to streamline the mining sector. There are a lot of things that are not working in the mining sector. You can see it's already showing signs of growth with the interventions that have come, but there's a lot to do in this sector. It's a sleeping giant for us. This, I've noted that ICT hubs are lying idle. I think we may need to engage with the State Department that once resources have been applied, especially from NGCDF, then
Can you give the better microphone? Because that is not working.
Yes, I was just saying that we are, I'm going to look into why the NGCDF funded ICT hubs have not been operationalized, or the line State Department is not operationalizing the same. Let me come to the questions raised by Honorable Babu Owino. And I'm happy that Honorable Babu said that I should lecture him like a standard one dropout, and I'm going to do exactly that. You know, I said you help me understand, not lecture. Or help you understand. That I'll do that. I'll help you understand. Like, I know you are not a standard one dropout, but I'll do that. Now, you see, prices is a function of demand and supply. Basic economics. And by the way, let me first correct Honorable Babu. I've seen you together with your self-imposed party leader trying to scandalize, so to speak, the capacity and competence of an accountant in running National Treasury, and saying that accountant should be a finance expert. For your information and his information, there is no finance expert who is not an accountant. Actually, for you to be a finance expert, you have to be an accountant. Before the 844, there was no finance option in the Faculty of Commerce. It used to be accounting. So you qualify as an accountant. And in accounting, you do all forms of finance, including public finance, corporate finance, and all the finances. So finance is actually a subset of accounting. It's within accounting. And by the way, in accounting, we not only do that, but we do law. We do basic law, we do commercial law, we do corporate law, we do everything about law. And we go a step further to do ICT. Actually, if there is any profession, if once you qualify, you can be anything, is an accountant. So I just wanted to allay your fears. One time I see you nursing some ambitions of being president, maybe 2052 or 2057. You can confidently.
Honorable
Babu, you can confidently. Let me just finish. You can confidently hire an accountant as your finance minister. But let me come to now your questions. You see, I started by saying basic economic concepts. In fact, I would call it macro MM1, macroeconomic, foundations of macroeconomics. You learn that price is a function of demand and supply. Now, even if you are sourcing your fuel from India, leave alone the Middle East, India, whatever happens in Middle East affects the supply globally. You know, the Strait of Hormuz is not in dispute, transits 20% minimum of global fuel. Now, the 80% is a lower supply compared to 100%. So up to that, I think we are together. Now, the demand remains constant. Supply has shrunk to 80%. Now, all these people who are getting their supply through the Strait of Hormuz are going to scramble for the fuel coming from other regions and other areas. So you really don't have to have your fuel passing through Strait of Hormuz. Actually, we have not said as a country that we cannot get our fuel because Strait of Hormuz has been blocked, because we know our fuel is passing through elsewhere. But the price now comes up because the demand remains constant. Supply has risen. The document.
Honorable Owino, please. If Honorable Owino, we don't work in Parliament like that. When somebody is Honorable Owino, you don't have the floor. You will be given the floor later.
I thought I was to explain to him like a standard one. Now he's behaving like a professor. So, Chairman, let me come back.
You can't inform him. Let him do his part, then you will get a chance to respond.
No, he's my friend. You know, Babu is my friend and my student in politics. So I was just explaining that you really don't have to have your fuel passing through Strait of Hormuz. What we are saying, Strait of Hormuz blocking has disrupted global supply of fuel anywhere, including the US. Okay? So that is the basic principle. Now that has led to global increase in prices, landing costs. Yeah? What comes here, they call it Platts cost. It comes here at a different price than what was there in February. So that explains why the prices have to go up. Now, price of fuel in Uganda, it should also be understood that I've done this comparison. I wish I carried my information. In April, the prices of fuel in Uganda was higher than Kenya. Now, and Mheshimiwa has come from there. The gap, the difference is not that much, even though Uganda, again, don't fix the prices. The price is allowed to fluctuate. But you see, let me tell you, the Uganda's, as an economy, their stock lags behind ours. So sometimes you may see that the price is still low, but in a month or two, it will jump and even be beyond Kenya. And I'm sure that is what Mheshimiwa has started to see. And I said it, in the month of May and going to June, you will see prices in Uganda higher than Kenya. There is no doubt about it. Kenyan economy is a bigger economy, we consume more, and as we have a storage of about 15 days, they have a storage of more, a longer period. So that is one reason. But I would also tell you, as a matter of fact, that their supply for fuel is not guaranteed because they have not gotten into this G2G arrangement. Many countries are now coming to Kenya to learn this G2G, which some of us are trying to fight. Now you have asked me a very good question, Honorable Babu. Why is it that development budget is consuming only, actually it is 751 billion. Last year it was 760. Why is it that we are consuming just a small portion of the budget in development expenditure and the budget is going up? Where has it gone to? One of the areas it has gone to is CFS. CFS is now taking 1.5 trillion, 1.5 trillion, up from 1.36 trillion last year. Why? Because a lot of debts, you asked who has put us here. Who has put us here is actually one of your friends who has led this country. Because the debts that were taken, the expensive debts that were taken, particularly around 2015, 2016, 2017, is what has put us here. We have to pay that interest. We have no choice. We have no choice because debt is a first charge. So when I see some people say that someone left a functioning economy, far from it. Actually, I will tell you, IMF, and it is on record, predicted that Kenya was going to default in paying our debts. In 2022, 2021, they predicted that. Remember, you and I were in a meeting in Masai Lodge. What were we told? That this government would not survive for 3 months. Because he told us, and this is not a lie, that I know where I've left this country. Didn't he say that? So what was he telling us in short? That he had ruined the economy of this country. That he had messed the economy of this country. And in fact, that day, I got very angry, not because of what he told, but I was wondering, he wanted to leave the leadership to Raila Odinga, where I was going to be the Minister for Finance. I didn't know that I would again become the Minister for Finance in Ruto's government. So I was cursing and saying, so what did he want, which economy was he leaving for me to run with Raila Odinga? Anyway, that's a matter for another day. But I am just telling people who are probably not in that meeting, and majority of us, apart from the chair, myself, Honorable Waziri, repeat that. Mashako was there. Honorable Chien was there. Repeat for the media, for the media to hear. Ruto Dinga and Anaseka.
Members, you have to talk through the chairman. The tendency to just log in the microphone and talk without passing through me is illegal. It's not allowed.
Yeah.
If you want to talk,
no, but chairman,
come through me. Yes.
Chairman, sorry.
Let's allow the minister to continue. And
the reason why, Chairman, I've gone this route, and it should be understood that I'm actually, it's not really a joke. I have gone this route because this issue of fuel and the issue of economy has ceased to be a discussion which is professional. It is political. And I have also to lay bare the politics because I understand it. I have been there. I was there in Masai Lodge when we were told that don't worry, this government will not survive for 3 months. I knew that was a lie because there is no government that will never. So it was the government, how could Kenya fail? It was not going to fail. We were going to have problems, but it was not going to fail. So I wanted just to remind Babu that remember our friend, my friend and your friend, told us that he messed the economy, in short. And so we are trying to correct it. We are trying to work around it. That is why we have removed the risk of default. The risk of this country defaulting. We have removed that to 2031. 2031. We have liability money 2027, 2028, and even 2032. It's only 2031 where you can still say we have some elements of risk. That is proper thinking. Now, in terms of what time do I work? You know, you must understand the role of a cabinet secretary. It's policy. Cabinet secretary, policy. I have 3 principal secretaries. The government is not mad, and the people of Kenya, to give me 3 principal secretaries to lead the technical departments. I have director generals, about 6 of them, very competent, qualified in their professions, helping me to work. Mine is to understand what they have already synthesized and bring to me, and we sit and think strategically. And I am a very fast learner, by the way. You bring the information, very fast I understand it. I don't need to sit the whole 7 days understanding what comes from my technical people. But my role is also to communicate. I have to, you cannot make policy without communicating and interacting. How do you design policy for people you don't meet? I have to meet people everywhere, anywhere, in the villages, and I must demystify treasury. It cannot just be about sitting on the 14th floor of the treasury building. I went to Ali Wario's constituency, and that is when I realized that 100 million can make a big difference. It can save lives. I did not know that if I was just sitting at the National Treasury building. I went to the ground and people talked to me directly, Wazees and Wamama, crying how they have been losing their children as they cross to school. And that is why I proposed that we allocate resources, and I am sure we have even allocated more to complete those 2 bridges for Ali Wario in this budget. That is the kind of leadership that is required. My PS sits in the office with this technical team, occasionally comes out, but sits most of the time in the office. I sit half-half in the office, and as required, I sit in the office, do the work, go out, communicate, interact, explain. That is my work. And I told them when I got into this position that one thing I'm bringing into treasury is not any new thinking, is how to communicate fast what you do, and that is what I'm doing. So I hope Honorable Babu Wino. But I know, Honorable Babu Wino, it is out of fear that
he has asked whether you are attending Kisumu rally on 31st.
Yeah, that one I will attend. Now, yeah, but you see, Babu Wino is more, I think more of his problem is about Nairobi, but I'm not going to run for Governor Nairobi. Now, Ali Wario on equalization fund, by the way, I want to give this commitment. I'm going to do more oversight of this fund to see that it is released in time. Yeah. On marginalization, I agree, and I've already talked about it. Remember, Chairman, there was a time in this country, a PS used almost the entire budget of the Ministry of Water to campaign for government. We saw it. That's what happens. So we must make sure that we enhance inclusivity. Honorable Ruth Odinga has asked me about Koru Soin Dam again. Koru Soin Dam had challenges. It was awarded to a contractor, but there was no budget. We have a problem of even compensating the people who are removed from that area. I think there's about 2 billion to be paid. So we looked at it and reviewed that it may not be easy to fund it through the normal budgetary allocation of GOK. We sat around this. Actually, we even discussed with the head of state, and we agreed that 2 approaches. It is under PPP, but it is also one of the projects that we have captured for NIF consideration under National Infrastructure Fund. On KRA,
Honorable Ruth Odinga, I can give you permission to ask a subsidiary question. Take the microphone. Yes.
Well, that the president did tell us that about this, and I was wondering, because now as you're speaking, it seems like there's nothing that has been done so far, and it's still really just in the beginning stages. So that's why I'm wondering.
Thank you. Waziri?
No, you know, there is a lot of procedure, because first, this contract had been awarded to a contractor. You have to renegotiate the exit, and We also have it under PPP program, and it is under NIF. NIF is just kicking in. So I would urge, because this is something that we have talked about so many times, it is something that's also very close to my heart, because I know that is one of the projects that both of us from ODM, we have been pushing very, very strongly. And I'm sure that this is a project that before the end of this term of government, we must see some positive progress. The same way Lake Victoria Ring Road, we will see progress. On the issue of Safaricom and KPC, these ones were captured in the 2025-26 framework. They are in this framework. In fact, KPC, we have concluded. The money is with the National Infrastructure Fund. Safaricom, we will get the money before the end of financial year. So we can't again capture it in the 26-27 budget. On funding the regional development authorities, yes, there are some that we are doing away with. Those ones we don't want to fund, but we'll continue funding those which we are remaining. And that is what the budget is there. You can see the budget. We have included a number of them in the budget. I didn't come up with a list, but on the leather factory, I need to check. Always we implement the government directives. The letters come, I mark them to my departments, and we process them together with the line ministries. Because again, there is no budget that sits at the National Treasury. They have to get priority in the state departments. And presidential directives are usually given very high priority in budget planning.
And Waziri, through the chair, do we have the funding for Suswa SGR to Kisumu?
We do. There is funding. It is a blended financing approach. If you look at the budget today, we have about 20 billion, I think. But again, the contractor is bringing in resources, and we are also negotiating on the railway development levy to put into it. So there is funding for it. On current percentage of debt to GDP ratio, it's about
through the chair. Did you talk about Kosiga Dam?
Kosiga was very deliberate. I wanted us to discuss that outside because we have not captured it in the budget. But I think it is that one we can't do under National Infrastructure Fund, and we can't do it under PPP because it may not be commercially viable like these others. So we need to get GOK funding for it. That's why I deliberately left that out of my submission. We may discuss it away from this.
Thank you.
I almost added something, but I don't want to add that. On debt to GDP ratio, that is 65% in present value terms. Remember when this administration came into office, it was 72%. We have tried to lower it, but we want to go all the way to 55%. Because that is what the law requires. It may be tricky for us in 2028, but it will be something that we are looking at going forward. It is actually the correct amount, the correct percentage is 65.6%. On savings to GDP ratio, we may get that data later. I don't think we are, even tax to GDP ratio. But tax to GDP ratio is it's here in the 14.9. 14.3. No. This one. Yeah. Yeah. But we are projecting 14.3. Yes. Projecting 14.3 is 14.9 in the supplementary one, but we are projecting 14.3 because we are lowering the base for the next year. We don't want to be overambitious in the next financial year. How to improve the percentages? One of the things is to make sure that we operate positive primary balance. And I hope this committee will help me maintaining the budget to have a positive primary balance. We are ending the year with a negative primary balance, and that's not very good. Measures to put money in people's pockets. You know, this question keeps on coming, but it should be understood that now we are operating in very difficult times. But again, this government, I don't think there is any government which has faced the kind of challenges that this government has faced. Remember, someone was trying to compare the first 3 years of President Kibaki, first 3 years of President Uhuru. first 3 years of President Ruto. Allow me, Chair, if I'm not overstretching it, just to compare the three. President Kibaki was elected on the final last day of December 2002, and immediately was pronounced the president. That was it. Everybody accepted. Uhuru conceded defeat. Everything settled. And the economy, however bad, it started work. No demonstrations until the political atmosphere became a bit charged after the referendum of 2005. So for about 3 years, he enjoyed absolute stability. No demonstrations. There was no major drought that I can remember. There was no war anywhere in the world that I can remember. Donors were very happy, came handy, everybody was coming in. Now, come to President Uhuru. President Uhuru Kenyatta came in 2013. And immediately was pronounced the president. We went to the Supreme Court. And once the Supreme Court made a verdict, remember, then Raila announced that I don't agree, but I will accept. And that was it. No demonstrations, no nothing, for about 3 years. In fact, the next demonstration that we had was when now we wanted to remove Hassan, Isaac Hassan Commission, IBC. Then Machozi Monday came in, kicked in. That was around 2016, 2017. And of course, we got them out. And of course, the economy had challenges. There was no major drought that I can remember. There was no world war or anything. Now, come to President Ruto. It is true that Raila accepted after Supreme Court verdict. But immediately after that, we saw an opportunity. Cost of living was high. And of course, the cost of living didn't just get high. It was gradually getting high. And we put sufrias on our heads and went to the streets and fought in the streets, and the economy was disrupted, period. But remember, just before elections, Russia decided to hit Ukraine. And the effect of that war got pronounced as the year graduated into end of 2022, then 2023. So there was the Ukraine war. You add to the sofrias on our heads, demonstrations. Then came the finance bill, 2024, and the country almost became ungovernable. For 3 months, economy is shut and closed. And as if that is not enough, we then got the worst drought in 40 years, reported by weather people. In 40 years, the worst drought. But before the drought, there was flooding early 2025. Serious flooding in this country. Then came, you remember what happened in my Mayu, people died in my constituency, we lost lives, and it was reported everywhere. So, and it happened everywhere in the country. Then drought. Then now today, Trump, Israel decides to hit Iran. Iran decides to retaliate by doing the unthinkable. First, closing that Strait of Hormuz, which Honorable Babu thinks is not a major deal, and everybody else, including Wazungu, wanasema it's a big deal. And then, refineries, you belong to UAE. No one imagined that Iran would hit their neighbors, Iran. And they have hit their neighbors, and the supply is disrupted. Now, with all this, and now even the supply of fertilizer will be disrupted, by the way. We were lucky that this planting season, we had already imported fertilizer. What of now the next planting season? It is not something that is easy. I tell you, President Ruto has managed the difficult period in any president would ever imagine. And no one seems to be appreciating that. Now, coming to money in people's pockets. So many people appreciate, but so many others also don't want us to believe. In fact, some of the people who imagine that they can lead this country, if they were put in positions of leadership as now, we would be cursing. In fact, I think people would not even be eating. But remember, this government, because people's, how do you assess money in people's pockets? It's either the cost of goods. I mean, you have the same income with lower prices of commodities, or higher prices of commodities with higher income. Now, we have had challenges with the income because our economy is not producing enough jobs as it should. But it is because of what is happening even globally. You cannot create so many jobs in uncertainty. I read in this report that Nairobi Securities Exchange is showing now capital flight because of the war. People are cautious. Investors are becoming more cautious. Everybody wants to wait and see approach. So that is not an economy that can produce so many jobs as would be expected. In a situation like the one we are in, you cannot create so many jobs. But again, Chair, hasn't the government done something about cost of commodities? The cost of basic commodities, especially food, we have tried in the basic food commodities. We have tried to intervene, fertilizer, seeds, and you can see the prices even with this disruption worldwide. At least locally, I don't see the price of unga going up. Sahi, Kenyans will be all over in the streets complaining about food. We are complaining about fuel, but not food today. Why? Because of government interventions. Yes, you can talk of weather. How many times have we had good weather before? Have we had a prolonged period where supply of food is never challenged like ours? Look at what we have done on the macros. To the extent now, banks have started giving more loans to the private sector. It was improving. It was coming up. Why it not been for this disruption? And even now, still the debt uptake, credit private sector is still not affected so much. So a lot is happening. A lot needs to happen. But again, we must understand where we are, the environment where we are. And I've addressed the issue of fuel prices before, and that is the case. How much are we going to collect, Honorable Kawanjiku? I think that is provided here in the statistics. Ordinary revenue, we will be collecting about 2.985 trillion. And total revenue, 3.629 trillion. 644 will be appropriations in aid. And how much debt? We are projecting about 1.1 trillion. Why? Because expenditure has gone up to 4.785 trillion. A lot of it because of CFS. Debts, a lot of debts, interests are now falling due. Need to inform people appropriately, yes. We are actually communicating. The people who are not understanding are people who want to play politics. And we will engage them. Kenya, in the fullness of time, Kenyans will understand us. Some of us are ready to explain to Kenyans and give them the truth and facts as they are. Yeah? We are struggling as a government with all these problems, but still you see a lot happening in the country. We don't have stalled roads anymore, as it were. I have a road in my constituency, Chair, and you know it. That road was awarded in 2020. By the time this government came in office, even 7 kilometers had not been done. 7 had not been done. Right now, that road has progressed to 28 kilometers in a period of 1.5 years. Yeah, and it is happening in many places. They will tell you roads that are stalled. How many markets are we doing in every county? 18 minimum. Almost all counties in the country. 18 markets coming up. Affordable housing are coming up. You and I and many members here come from the blue economy region. How much investment has this government put in blue economy, including of buyers, including of the landing sites and many others, and investment in coffee sector, investment in tea sector, investment in milk sector. Milk sector has been reduced to almost an individual. Sure, I want to be very careful because I'm told there are people who kebuza ni kama umeguza the whole tribe. I didn't know that when you talk about some individuals in the whole tribe.
They don't have some people. They don't have their reps here.
Yeah, thank you. Committee. No, but Kenyans out there, they may start misunderstanding what I say. To me, if you touch me, the Subas or those will not come out. But there are some people you touch, one person like this, the whole community is up and down. So anyway, that's how life is. Maybe this is animal farm. Some are more equal than others. On housing, we will discuss with the housing sector. Just to see, we always support the housing sector. Remember, we even gave them more budgetary provision in the supplementary budget. And we will make sure, because this is a flagship project. If there is any one area that this government is succeeding in is the housing sector. And that is why I realized my friend Babu, who is a very intelligent man, when he was asked, when you become a governor of Nairobi, what will you do? He made sure that he didn't address that question properly, because he knew if he addressed it, he was going to support President Ruto. But he didn't want to do that. Because this is one area you cannot take away from President Ruto. He has succeeded. Whether you are his friend or enemy, you will agree with anybody else. Look, UN is recognizing Kenya as having succeeded in terms of affordable housing. It is a massive. This is not something we can fail to support, Honorable Kwanyi. We will support housing sector. Honorable Aseka, Cabinet Secretary is having vote. No, we don't have specific votes for Cabinet Secretary. My peers here will tell you. We have collective votes for transport, anything else, traveling, all those things, including per diems, is all put together, and it is the accounting officer. There I have to bow down when it comes to that. I'm the one who has given him the power to be accounting officer at the budget, but when it comes to expenditure, I have to request him and plead with him, can you facilitate me? So what ministers should do is just to have good relationship with the PSS. But again, Honorable Seka, I know the challenges our state departments are going through. We don't have much for these recurrent expenditures. We have really cut the current to enforce austerity measures. That's why you find sometimes cabinet secretaries are frustrated. But we can't complain loudly because Kenyans want to apply austerity measures. Do you give me money to travel or give money to capitation? So those are the balancing act that we have to employ. But we try to support them. Counties misappropriating donor funds. Yes, I have taken action in many counties, including your own county, Honorable Aseka, Kakamega, and I stopped a disbursement to them until they corrected. They brought some correction. We have done to Taita Taveta, Bomet, and even Nyamira. So we are not, yeah? I don't think we've done, yeah, but we can check. I can send my team to find out. Let me move quickly. Communication. Whether National Treasury lacks communication department. No, we have a communication department, Mheshimiwa, actually headed by someone who comes not very far from your place. It's called Mr. C. He's a very good man. That is National Treasury. We have another department, even economic planning has communication department led by a lady. We have PIAM as communication department. All these people support us very well. But I also told the ministry that I'm the chief communicator. Because you know, in Kenya it's not lack of information. In Kenya it's politicization of information. And our technocrats find it very difficult to deal with a situation where someone just wakes up and says that in the finance bill he has seen that we are converting freehold land into leasehold. How do you expect an ordinary and technocrat in the ministry to deal with that? You need a politician now to deal with that, like me. So I told them, now when it comes to engaging on this misinformation, disinformation, I take the lead because I am well and better placed to deal with such kind of communication. And you can see when I communicated that, there has been no rejoinder. I mean, he has not come to say that I'm lying, he's the one who was right. So he knows he was lying to Kenya. And I will keep on calling them out whenever I find them trying to mislead Kenyans who probably don't understand. Look at my finance bill. They keep on reporting controversial. Where is the controversy? Tell me, mention 1, 2, 3, 4 controversial clauses in the finance bill. It's not there. It's an imagination, fiction, bringing things that are not there, just to hype emotions, incite people, leading to 24th, is it 24th or 25th memorial? You know, that is what they are working on. They want to disrupt my finance bill on reading of my budget statement on 11, But I'll deal with them. 11th, I must read, because I have a duty to Kenyans, to read my budget highlights without any interruption. So I will make sure it is read without any interruption. And after reading it without any interruption, we will tell them, now you can deal with your politics of commemorating the day. Yeah? And commemorating the day is okay. We can commemorate it peacefully without any problem. And the police can provide security and do, but please don't incite Kenyans, especially about finance bill. What is it in this finance bill that would warrant someone to stand? You have read it, members of parliament. What is in it? Why don't you tell me 1, 2, 3? If you ask them, they will look at you like this. No one is telling you anything wrong with the finance bill. Mashako, Honorable Mashako, how long will it take Kenyans to feel in their pockets? I think I've addressed this and to be able to feed their children. But you'll agree with me, Honorable Mashako, that the government has really tried. Like the cost of basic commodities, we have tried. If it were not for this rise in fuel prices, we have managed inflation. Down from 9.6 to now it was 4, actually it went to 2.7 inflation. And of course, you know, you can't put inflation to 0, because then that will choke the economy. Economy must also grow. That's why we agreed on 2.5 to 7.5% as reasonable. In terms of Tibet, we have just provided 8.2 billion this financial year, and we will disburse it. Once you approve, we'll disburse. Honorable Babu, on cooperation between national and Nairobi County government, I think I may come with a better answer for this, but I know that we will be funding through line ministries some activities, but there are on sewerage we are providing about 2.5 billion, if I'm not wrong. I'm done. Now the last one is audits of public debt. You see, what I said is I asked the Auditor General, because that is our mandate, to audit public audit. And he came, public debt, sorry, to the audit public debt. He came at entry meeting with us, and I left it to her. The law does not allow me to control that office. In fact, I cannot even ask her, where is that public debt audit? It is Parliament that can request her to make public what she has found. If she is still progressing, she will report. You have more powers, by the way, than me. You can write to her to ask her to avail that report. But I know she has done the public debt audit of our debt, so that we remove this notion being peddled around by Safina leadership and others that our debt is opaque. Yet you go to the Treasury website, it is there. Our debt, everything is there. Even what we are going to take, the debt we are adding this year is there, next year is there. And we are really working to make sure that we go for cheaper debt. Chair, it would interest this committee to know that we are getting the first samurai bond, isn't it? Then I hope in a matter of days. And it is much cheaper looking at the costing of that debt. So we are looking at possibility of exploring other cheaper debts compared to previous years. Let me stop there, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Members, you will agree with everyone here that the team from Treasury has done very, very well. Yes. And they are satisfied us with all the answers that we wanted. And therefore, the only thing we left is for us to discharge them and so that they can go and focus on other responsibilities. So, Waziri, thank you very much and for your appearance, and also with your team. We are always happy with the support you're giving Parliament. And we also promise to continue giving you the same support. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. The members of Parliament, please remain behind so that we can have a conversation. Hey, man. Can you chair this session? Yes. status of the budget implementation for the financial year 2025-2026 and at the end of April 2026. Number 2, the state of the economy and the fiscal framework underpinning the preparation of this year's budget estimates. Number 3, completion of the status of better flagship projects and their allocations in this year's estimates. Number 4, detailed list of development projects for the financial 2026-2027, including the geographical location, that is county and sub-county. Number 5, status of public-private partnerships, PPP, projects, and the anticipated physical implications over the medium term. And number 6, measures being undertaken to enhance domestic revenue mobilization, widen the tax base, and reduce reliance on borrowing. To introduce the team that is accompanying him, and thereafter to immediately begin his remarks. Bwana CS, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable members, yes, indeed, it's a pleasure to be here once more. But let me start with introductions. I have a team from the National Treasury. It's a big team that I will ask each one of them to introduce themselves individually. My name is John Mbadi, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury.
Afternoon, honorable members. I'm Chris Kinto, Principal Secretary, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable members. My name is Engineer Kefaseda, Director General PPP Treasury.
Good morning, honorable members. My name is Dr. Manda, Director General for Budget, Fiscal and Economic Affairs.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is USA Kenyans, the Director of Budget, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Sam Okiru, Director of Planning, National Treasury.
Honorable members, my name is Miriam Musioki, working budget.
Chair, my name is George Yogo, Citizen's Office.
Chair, my name is Belford Bay, Parliamentary Liaison.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Nila Wanjala, PPP Directorate, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. I'm Samuel Onyango from PPP Directorate, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, the protocols observed by Michael PPP Directorate.
Good afternoon, my name is Victor Nyango, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, members. My name is Christine Nana, PPP Directorate.
My name is Eldoreki, I'm the investment.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable members. My name is George Malonde, Director National Assets.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable members. My name is John Jero, Director of Planning, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, my name is Banda Joffrey from Pensions Department.
Good afternoon, Chair, honorable members. My name is Francis Ambrosio from Pensions Department, National Treasury.
Okay, I think that's it. Do you have any more numbers?
Good afternoon, Chair, and
Good afternoon, Chair, and honorable members, and the Office of Economics from the National Treasury.
Yes, Waziri, I think you can proceed now. Mbadi, what are you?
Chair, I didn't have noticed the CEO of Equalization Fund and the Accountant General. They are not around.
You're very attentive on the warrior. Okay, I think the minister will respond to that.
Issue there.
Yes.
Because this is a concern I've raised. This is the 5th time I'll be raising it. And don't fear raising it. And last time I raised it, the CS told us he will correct it. I have nothing against anybody who's here, but I said several before. Budgeting has a strong planning function. Where have you left the PS planning again today? Because last time, as you told us, you will ensure next time, you carry him along.
Chairman, the PS planning may not be around.
Yes, Waziri, just a minute, Honorable Naisula.
Thank you, Chairman. I must commend the CS today. I can see a number of women in the delegation. Let's keep it that way and promote those who need to be promoted. Thank you.
Thank you. Waziri, you can proceed.
On the issue, I'm not sure whether there was any specific question on equalization. We didn't invite the CEO equalization. I thought we were going to discuss generally the budget, and equalization budget is actually spelled out in the law. But when it comes to implementation projects, then we may need the CEO equalization. On planning, the PS may not be with us because he was engaged elsewhere, but we have a very senior officer from the planning department is sitting here on my right. So I think we are comfortable. We are okay. If anything, I'm CS, including. Including planning, so that's okay. So let me now start, Chair. Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting us to this meeting to consider the financial year 2026-27 and the medium-term budget estimates. The financial year 2026-27 budget was submitted to the National Assembly as per the law on 30th of April 2026, which is in line with the requirements of the Constitution and also Public Finance Management Act Cap 412A. I am grateful to the members of this committee for taking time to review the budget estimates and inviting my team and myself to consider the budget estimates. To facilitate the discussions, we have prepared responses to the following issues which are raised. And you've read them: status of budget implementation, state of the economy, completion status of better flagship projects, detailed list of development projects for the financial year 26-27, status of public-private partnership projects, measures being undertaken to enhance revenue mobilization and widening of the tax base, measures being undertaken to address youth unemployment, job creation, and support for MSMEs, and progress on the ongoing PFM reforms and the expected impact or fiscal impact, and any other relevant information. So, Chairman, I will first begin by addressing the first question. And the first question was status of the budget implementation for the financial year 25-26 as at the end of April 2026. Mr. Chairman, implementation of the financial year 25-26 budget has progressed well, albeit with some challenges related to expenditure pressures and revenue shortfalls. By the end of April 2026, total revenue collection, including appropriation and aid, amounted to 2,658 billion, which is 14% of GDP, against a target of 2,725.6 billion. And that is shown in the table on the same page, Table 1, total revenue as at 30th April 2026. You can see from the table, the first column is total revenue, which we have the target, and then we have the preliminary data. And you can see in terms of total revenue, the deviation that is there is 67, and ordinary revenue has registered the widest, wider deviation, but appropriation in aid has done very well, or non-tax revenue for that matter. So appropriation in aid actually overperformed or performed beyond the projection. When we come to the expenditure side, and net lending for the period ending April 2026, the total expenditure is 3.9 3.638 trillion, which is 19.2% of GDP, against a target of 3.574 trillion. The outturn was above the target expenditure by 64 billion, mainly due to higher than expected disbursements in recurrent spending. Again, the table there clearly indicates the total, the current expenditure. We over-disbursed by about 145 billion in terms of recurrent expenditure. In terms of development expenditure, we are almost at 100%, but then there is an under disbursement by about 2.6 billion. So development expenditure, we did very well. Recurrent expenditure, we were above the target. Now the resulting fiscal balance, including grants, is amounting to 964 billion. That's 5.1% of GDP against a target deficit of 812 billion. Question number 2, the state of the economy and the fiscal framework underpinning the budget estimates for financial year 26-27. On state of the economy, this is my response, Honorable Chairman. The budget estimates for the financial year 26-27 are being prepared against a backdrop of heightened global uncertainty following the outbreak of conflict in the Middle East in late February 2026, to be exact on 28th. The conflict has disrupted global commodity markets. It has weakened investor confidence and tightened global financial conditions, reversing gains from strong technology-related investment, accommodative financial conditions, a weaker US dollar, and supportive fiscal and monetary policies. The global outlook remains fragile, with risks tilted to the downside, particularly from potential escalation of the conflict and disruptions to a critical energy transit route, that is the Strait of Hormuz. Consequently, global growth is projected to moderate to 3.1% in 2026 and 3.2% in 2027 from an average of 3.4% in 2024-2025. Mr. Chairman, against this global backdrop, the Kenyan economy continues to demonstrate resilience despite facing elevated external risks arising from the conflict in the Middle East, as well as internal drought-related risks, particularly in the Q4 of 2025. In 2025, the economy grew by 4.6% compared with 4.7% in 2024, with all sectors registering positive growth. However, it is worth noting, Mr. Chairman, that for 2025, all sectors of the economy at least registered a growth. Some registered slower growth, but all had positive growth, unlike 2024, when some sectors registered negative growth, like manufacturing, construction, mining, and mining sector. So the growth outlook for 2026 continues to be affected by emerging external risks, particularly the conflict that I've just mentioned. These risks are transmitting through higher global oil prices that rose from an average of $63 per barrel in February 2026 to average around $103 per barrel by end of May 2026. But against this backdrop, the 2026 growth projection has been revised downwards from 5.3% to 5%. This baseline projection assumes that the conflict in the Middle East will be contained in the near term, allowing for partial stabilization of global energy markets. However, should the conflict persist, growth would weaken further relative to the current projection. In 2027 growth is projected at 5.2% as external pressures abate and global supply chains normalize. The rest of the macroeconomic indicators remain broadly stable, although the emerging external pressures continue to impact domestic prices. Inflation rate remains within target range of 5 plus or minus 2.5% and stood at 5.6% in April 2026. But Mr. Chairman, I've just got data which I've not even approved. The inflation has jumped to 6.7%, up from 4.1% in April 2026. The increase was mainly due to higher fuel prices. So inflation is at 6.7% today because of the high prices of fuel. Interest rates have declined in line with the easing of the monetary policy. 91-day Treasury bill rate declined to 7.5% in April 2026 from 8.5% in April 2025. The average commercial banks lending rates have also declined to 14.7% in March 2026 from 17.2% in November 2024. Lending to the private sector by commercial banks improved to grow by 7.8% in the year to March 2026 compared to a growth of 0.2% in the year to March 2025. The external sector current account deficit is projected at 3% of GDP in 2026 compared to previous projection of 2.2% of GDP, reflecting emerging risks of the conflict in the Middle East, including higher international oil prices, which is increasing import costs and the reduced exports. Lower receipts from services is also another reason. Slower growth in remittance inflows and reduced exports. We are aware that Middle East provides one of those areas or regions which provide high diaspora remittances to this country. In fact, Saudi Arabia has been number 2. Now I think it's number 3 after UK and the USA, but it has been number 2 in terms of diaspora remittances. The exchange rate remains broadly stable, averaging 129.4 to the US dollar in April 2026 compared to an average of 129.5 in April or at the same time last year. The official foreign exchange reserves stood at 13.3 billion US dollars, which is 5.7 months of import cover in the week ending 15th May 2026 compared to US dollars 9.96 billion or 4.4 months of import cover over the same period in 2024, giving the economy a robust buffer against external shocks. Activities in the Nairobi Securities Exchange has improved over the past 1 year. The Nairobi Securities Exchange 20 share index rose by 67% in April 2026, up from 2,263 points in April 2025. Since February 2026, the Nairobi Securities Exchange 20 share index declined by 3.4% as investors become cautious of the rising global uncertainty caused by the conflict in the Middle East. Now, turning back to fiscal framework and underpinning the budget estimates for financial year 2026-27, I have the following to say, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. The fiscal policy for the coming financial year and the medium term will be anchored on a growth-supportive consolidation strategy that advances the government's priorities under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. In line with the fiscal consolidation plan, the overall fiscal deficit is projected to gradually decline from 5.3% of GDP in 2026-27 to 3.3% of GDP in 28-29. In the financial year 26-27 budget, the table is we have provided table 3A and table 3B. Total revenues, including appropriation in aid, are projected at 3.63 trillion, which is about 17.4% of GDP, from 3.399 trillion, which is 18.2% of GDP in the financial year 25-26. Of this, ordinary revenue is projected at 2.985 trillion, that's 14.3% of GDP, and this projection assumes a lower revenue base to adjust for projected underperformance of 147 billion in financial year 25-26. On that base, we factored additional revenue yields from the Finance Bill of 2026 and yields from administration reforms implemented by KRA. Further, we have factored in revenue yields that will come from reforms of the land rent regime and expected yield from the instant fines. And that, I wanted to stop there, Chair. I think this mention of land rent regime is what some politicians somewhere picked and assumed that must have been in the finance bill. Actually, what we mean here is that the Ministry of Land is looking at reforms in some of our major cities. If you look at Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, and Kisumu, you'll find that some prime areas are still charging land rents which were charged in the 70s and early 80s. So there is need to look at that and adjust them appropriately and accordingly. Now that is what some politicians probably picked and started saying that there are certain hidden provisions in the finance bill. I don't know how finance bill can hide information, and it is a public document. But anyway, that is left for people to judge their level of understanding of what goes into finance bill. Now, the projections for financial year 26-27 indicate a decline of 0.6% of GDP from 2025-2026 of 14.9% of GDP to 14.3% of GDP. This is due to a one-off Safaricom advance dividend of 40 billion not expected in financial year 26-27 and an adjustment of CBK dividend from 30 billion in financial year 25-26 to 6.5 billion in financial year 26-27. Ministerial appropriation in aid is projected at 644 billion, which is a 4.8% growth from the financial year 25-26 approved budget. Total expenditure is projected at 4,785 billion, which is 23% of GDP in the financial year 26-27 from the 4.638 trillion. Which is 24.9% of GDP in the financial year 25-26. So we are projecting to spend as a percent of GDP less in the next financial year compared to the current financial year, from 24.9% of GDP to 23% of GDP. This will comprise recurrent expenditure 3.538 trillion and development expenditure is at 749 billion. Transfer to county governments amounting to 495.5 billion, which is both shareable revenue and transfers, both conditional and unconditional. Then allocation of 2 billion will go to the contingency fund. Fiscal deficit, including grants, is therefore projected at 1.11 trillion, which is 5.3% of GDP in the next financial year. The fiscal deficit will be financed through net external borrowing amounting to 116 billion and net domestic financing of 996 billion. I have provided in the next page, table 3A, you can clearly see where the projection of revenue, which is 3.6 to 9.7 trillion. Out of that, there is that ordinary revenue, which is 2.985, and then total expenditure is also indicated there. You can see clearly that recurrent expenditure is taking 3.538 trillion, up from 3.393 trillion. And then interest payments is increasing from 1.126 trillion to 1.254 trillion. So that's an increase. And then the rest, I think the figures are clearly shown. In terms of development, we are not changing. It's the 760, 751. The same amount spent this year is what is projected to be spent on development. So what has gone up? What has gone up is largely CFS and also recurrent expenditure. And so the next page is showing percentages. In terms of GDP, you can see the percentages there. I don't want to spend much time there. I can now move to the next page, Chair, and then we'll be addressing the third question. And the third question is status of better flagship projects and their locations in the financial year 26-27. Mr. Chairman, the government continues to consolidate and accelerate implementation of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda through strategic investments across 5 core pillars. These pillars constitute the foundation for achieving inclusive prosperity, job creation, and sustainable economic transformation, with interventions directly impacting households at the base of the economic pyramid. The 5 core pillars are agriculture transformation, 2, micro, small, and medium enterprises economy, 3, digital highway and creative economy, 4, healthcare, and finally housing and settlement, represented represent integrated pathways through which the government seeks to drive economic growth, expand opportunities, and enhance social welfare across the country. Some of the key achievements under BETA for the last 3 years are as follows. One is the agriculture transformation for inclusive green growth. Mr. Chairman, agriculture remains a core pillar of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and a key driver of sustainable and inclusive growth. The sector supports more than 2/3 of Kenyan households and possesses one of the highest employment multiplier effects, particularly for economically marginalized groups. Mr. Chairman, some of the key achievements under this pillar include implementation of the fertilizer subsidy program, reaching 3.15 million farmers and reducing fertilizer prices by 62% from 6,500 to now 2,500 per bag. Number 2 is supported technology transfer and crop diversification through provision of over 3.5 million assorted seedlings. Number 3 is rehabilitation of 6 fish landing sites, namely Kibuyuni, Vanga, Gazi, Molukoba, Kichwa, Chakati, and Ngomeni to act as fast avenues for processing and value addition. Number 4, supported over 83,000 common interest group members with grants amounting to 3.37 billion to diversify livelihoods and reduce pressure on fisheries resources. Number 5, settlement of 33,583 households, including squatters and landless individuals. Number 6 is accelerated digitization of land records through Ardhi Sasa, resulting in issuance of over 1 million title deeds and the digitization of 3 million land parcels. Number 7, scaled up artificial insemination services, reaching over 1 million livestock and disbursement of 9 billion to coffee farmers and now close to 5 billion for sugar reforms. In terms of the second pillar, which is the micro, small and medium enterprises economies, Mr. Chairman, I wish to state as follows that this remains the backbone of Kenya's economy, accounting for 98% of all businesses, providing 84% of total employment, which is approximately 14.9 million jobs, and contributing 40% of GDP. Mr. Chairman, some of the key achievements under this pillar include the following. 1, constructed 21 county aggregation and industrial parks, the KIPES. Number 2, trained over 13,000 students and SMEs in industrial and entrepreneurial skills. Number 3, the investment promotion subsector catalyzed job creation with 62,304 jobs created. Number 4, provided affordable credit by disbursing 72 billion through the Financial Inclusion Fund, which is called Hustler Fund, and 4.86 billion in industrial credit via Kenya Industrial Estates, which supported creation of over 290,000 jobs. Number 5, trained 56,350 youths in life skills and disbursed loans to 28,000 youth engaged in various business sectors. Number 6, 3,537 youth were facilitated to secure employment approach. Number 8, 7,393 upcoming musicians were given income-generating performance opportunities, and 815 youth trained in music and dance. On healthcare, the focus of the government is to achieve universal health coverage through integrated primary health networks, expansion of community health services, and deployment of sufficient medical personnel. Further, the objective of the government is to provide sustainable financing mechanisms, digital health platforms, improved medicine supply chains, and patient safety initiatives are central to ensuring equitable access to quality healthcare services. Mr. Chairman, over the past 3 years, the government has implemented strategic interventions to strengthen primary healthcare, expand health infrastructure, improve service delivery, and ensure sustainable financing. Some of the key achievements in this sector include the following. 1. Enrollment of over 27 million Kenyans in the Social Health Authority by 2025, representing more than 200% growth from fewer than 9 million under NHIF, with over 21 million entirely new members. Government enhanced allocation to 19.1 billion and 4 billion for primary health care fund and emergency chronic critical illnesses fund, respectively, in the financial year 25-26, and we have provided similar allocations to 26-27. The government has also deployed 107,831 community health promoters supporting 8.8 million households and established 228 primary care networks. Number 4, government has sponsored enrollment of approximately 2.49 million vulnerable households under SHA. And finally, Ministry of Health has established 228 primary health care networks across all 47 counties out of a target of 315 networks, among other achievements. Under housing and settlement, Mr. Chairman, the affordable housing program is a central pillar of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda aimed at expanding access to decent and affordable housing for low and middle-income households, reducing the national housing deficit and stimulating broad-based economic growth through construction-led employment and industrial development. Mr. Chairman, between 2022 and 2025, progress has been realized in the provision of affordable houses under the affordable housing program. Currently, 214,000 housing units are under construction across all 47 counties, marking significant progress towards national housing objectives. The following has been achieved. Number 1, completed units include 605 units in Bondeni, 1,008 units in Mukuru, 110 units in Homa Bay, and 390 institutional units across various counties. Number 2, ongoing projects include 83,000 affordable units, which is 32% completion, or have attained 32% completion rate. 44,800 are social housing units, which are at 70% completion, and another 11,527 institutional units, which are at about 22% completion. 1,189 units have been handed over to beneficiaries. Additional progress includes packaging 178,000 student beds for universities, TVETs, and KMTCs, with 74,000 under construction. And the number 5, market infrastructure expansion includes, this is a massive market infrastructure that I think has been realized in independent Kenya. 44 markets completed, including 10 market sheds, 30 ESP markets, and 4 modern markets. 276 modern markets under development across the country, with another 175 at early stages, and an additional 34 modern and 205 ESP markets under construction at approximately 48% completion. Turning to digital superhighway and creative economy, Mr. Chairman, digital transformation is central to Kenya's strategy for competitiveness in the 4th industrial revolution. The government views digital connectivity and literacy as core national infrastructure equivalent to roads, water, and electricity, essential for access to education, healthcare, finance, markets, public services, and emerging digital opportunities. Mr. Chairman, significant progress has already been made in strengthening digital infrastructure nationwide. From 2022 to 2025, the following progress has been made. Digital transformation accelerated with 24,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable added. The State Department for ICT and Digital Economy has expanded total infrastructure to 80,633 kilometers. This comprises of 30,454 kilometers of public sector fiber, up from 22,486 kilometers in 2022, and 50,179 kilometers of private sector fiber, reflecting substantial investment in nationwide broadband capacity. Under the national optic fiber backbone, 7,152 kilometers of fiber have been installed, connecting 82 hostels and 1,114 public institutions to higher speed internet. To support widespread access and digital inclusion, the government established 404 digital hubs and distributed 21,372 devices to enhance digital access and expand training opportunities. In addition, 1,578 GI Connect public Wi-Fi hotspots have been rolled out in markets, town centers, bus stages, and public facilities, growing from 0 hotspots in 2022 to nearly 1,500 hotspots by 2025. Furthermore, 1.556 million youths were trained, and 182,000 of them linked to online work through the Ajira digital program, advancing digital inclusion and employment. And finally, to modernize public service delivery, over 17,668 services were onboarded onto the e-citizen platform from just 350 agencies. From over 350 agencies. Mr. Chairman, the policy priorities of the government for the financial year 26-27 and medium-term budget will be firmly anchored on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which remains a central framework for delivering inclusive growth, expanding economic opportunities, and improving livelihoods. The government will continue to implement targeted policy, institutional, and structural reforms aimed at unlocking productivity across key value chains, reducing inequalities, and accelerating the transition to a more resilient, competitive, and self-sustaining economy. Mr. Chairman, in the financial year 26-27, the National Treasury has allocated well over 379 billion for better priorities, as summarized in the table below. The details of the priority, table number 4, the detailed priority areas under the respective classes are indicated in Annex 1A to 1E of this briefing, and then you can see in the table. Question number 4 was for me to provide detailed list of development projects for the financial year 26-27, including their geographical location, that is county and sub-county. Mr. Chairman, the National Treasury is committed to ensuring equitable distribution of public resources in accordance with Article 201 of the Constitution. In this regard, we have undertaken the following in the financial year 26-27. 1. Equitable share allocation to county governments. The government remains committed to devolution and fiscal decentralization for equitable development of the country by allocating resources to ensure service delivery and development within all the 47 counties. Number 2, Equalization Fund. Allocated resources to the Equalization Fund for the construction of infrastructure such as roads, schools, hostels, pipe water systems, sewerage system, and electricity in marginalized areas based on a criterion outlined in Articles 260 and 216 of the Constitution. Number 3, National Government Constituency Development Fund. The government has allocated resources to NGCDF to ensure implementation of projects across all the 290 constituencies. And finally, National Government Affirmative Action Fund. The government has also allocated resources to address the plight of vulnerable groups through enhanced access to financial facilities for socio-economic empowerment. Mr. Chairman, we acknowledge that the Integrated Financial Management Information System, IFMIS, has established a standardized chart of accounts that includes a segment dedicated to geographical location, which is essential for budgeting purposes. MDS have allocated resources to projects across the country in road construction, provision of water, markets, and other infrastructure projects. We have, however, observed that in most cases, the geographical locations were not properly reflected by MDS. Going forward, the National Treasury will ensure that this information is well reflected. As requested, we have Annex number 2 of this brief provides a financial year 26-27 list of funded projects. A soft copy has also been shared. Question number 5, status of public-private partnership projects and their anticipated fiscal implications over the medium term. Mr. Chairman, we have provided the status of the public-private partnerships projects and their anticipated fiscal implications over the medium term as indicated in Annex number 3 of this brief. Number 6, measures being undertaken to enhance domestic revenue mobilization, widen the tax base, and reduce reliance on borrowing. Mr. Chairman, again, the government will continue to implement reforms on both the revenue and expenditure side. Revenue mobilization will be strengthened through enhanced tax administration and targeted policy measures. Revenue reforms in financial year 26-27 will involve the following. 1, continuous implementation of the national tax policy and medium-term revenue strategy that targets to raise tax revenue to above 20% of GDP. The reforms in the 2 policy documents will progressively strengthen tax revenue mobilization. Strengthen tax administration. The government in the current financial year, supplementary estimate number 1, provided an additional budget to Kenya Revenue Authority to support digital transformation initiatives. This includes system upgrades, data integration, and deployment of real-time compliance tools aimed at improving efficiency, broadening the tax base, and sealing revenue leakages. And further, we will continue with the reforms on enhancing non-tax revenues collections by ministries, departments, and agencies to improve service-based revenue performance. Question number 7, measures being undertaken to address youth unemployment, job creation, and support for macro, small, and medium-term enterprises under the financial year 26-27 budget. Mr. Chairman, the objective of the government is to address youth unemployment by creating jobs across all the sectors of the economy, including providing affordable credit to support micro, small, and medium enterprises. Mr. Chairman and honorable members, to support implementation of the intervention to address unemployment and support affordable credit for MSMEs, the government has allocated resources to various ministries, departments, and agencies for the following. 1. Youth support. Mr. Chairman, the national government has allocated over 22.6 billion on account of youth support programs under the various MDS as indicated in table below. So under State Department for Youth Affairs and the Creative Economy, 3.9 billion. A lot of it is going to National Youth Opportunity Towards Advancement, that is NYOTA, 1.7 billion. Then also Youth Employment Support Program, 2 billion. Now the second one is State Department for Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Development, a total of 1.195 billion, 3.195 billion, and the National Youth Operations Towards Advancement, NYOTA, is taking 1.6 billion. And then the other one is State Department for Investment Promotion, here is 1.6 billion. State Department for Labor and Skills Development, 1.4 billion. And State Department for Public Service and Human Capital is 12.5 billion, largely National Youth Service. Some of the targeted interventions are as follows. 1 is training youth on entrepreneurship and business development, supporting youth-owned enterprises with financing, facilitating youth to access apprenticeship and employment opportunities, training youth in life skills and market-relevant technical skills under the NYOTA program, supporting access to overseas employment opportunities, supporting youth to market their products and services, and youth paramilitary training as well as vocational training and job creation under NYS. Internship programs. Mr. Chairman, in the financial year 26-27 budget, the national government has allocated over 21 billion for the internship program to support youths under the following MDS. 2 billion under Public Service Commission, 8 billion for the teachers, 9.3 billion for the health professionals, and 1.5 billion under the affordable housing. Mr. Chairman, further, in the financial year 26-27, the national government has allocated 3.2 billion for the community health promoters as a stipend. Provision of affordable credit to MSMEs. Mr. Chairman, as indicated earlier, the macro, small, and medium enterprises sector remains the backbone of our economy, accounting for 98% of all businesses, providing 84% of total employment, which is approximately 14.9 million jobs, and contributing 40% to our GDP. Mr. Chairman, over the past 3 years, the national government has allocated resources for affordable credit through the Financial Inclusion Fund or Hustlers Fund. Further, we have other funds such as Kenya Industrial Estates, Credit Guarantee Scheme, USA Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, Agricultural Finance Corporation (FC) for the provision of credit to the youth, women, and unemployed to venture in MSMEs, among others. Mr. Chairman, in the financial year 26-27 budget, the national government has allocated over 8.8 billion for the provision of credit to youths, women, MSMEs, among others. Some of the key allocations are 1 billion for MSMEs agricultural credit, 1.1 for Rural Kenya Financial Inclusion Facility, 5.4 billion for the supporting access to finance and enterprise recovery, 300 million for Youth Enterprise Fund, 100 million for WESO funds. 401 million for women enterprise fund, and 487 million for Kenya industrial estates. Mr. Chairman, the implementation of the affordable housing scheme is creating approximately over 500,000 jobs annually. In the financial year 26-27 budget, the national government has allocated 110 billion for the affordable housing program. This is expected to create more jobs as well as stimulate growth in the MSME sector under the Juakali industry. Mr. Chairman, the national government over the years has enhanced the provision of subsidized fertilizer to farmers. The agriculture sector forms the backbone of our economy through provision of food security and creation of employment. In the financial year 26-27 budget, the national government has allocated 18 billion for the fertilizer subsidy as well as 2 billion for seed subsidy to promoting the agricultural sector. Mr. Chairman, we take cognizance that the informal sector is a major contributor of employment in the economy and thus serving as the primary engine for economic growth and poverty reduction. The total number of new jobs generated in the economy in 2025 was 822,000, with 87% of them created in the informal sector. The informal sector employment rose by 716,000 jobs in 2025 to stand at 18 million. In this regard, the national government will continue implementing and creating policies that promote an enabling environment to private sector investors and job opportunities in the country. Question number 8, progress on the ongoing PFM reforms and their expected fiscal impacts. Mr. Chairman, the ongoing public financial management reforms are already shaping the execution of the financial year 25-26 budget. The reforms have significantly improved budget credibility, fiscal discipline, expenditure efficiency, and debt sustainability. Some of the positive impacts of the PFM reforms includes expenditure control, automation of e-procurement, payroll, pensions, and HR systems, along with the digitized public investment management, has enhanced efficiency, reduced leakages, and improved prioritization of development projects. Number 2, PPPs and SOE reforms. Strategic restructuring, privatization, and scaled up PPPs have reduced reliance on the exchequer and enhanced fiscal space. And a risk to the outlook, Mr. Chairman, as mentioned earlier, the financial year 2026-27 budget has been prepared against a rapidly evolving global environment following the ongoing war in the Middle East, which has heightened geopolitical tensions and could pose additional risks to global growth through potential disruptions to energy markets, trade, and financial stability. Equally, there are domestic risks that could affect revenue performance, scale up expenditure pressures, and worsen public debt sustainability. The government will continue to monitor developments in the Middle East and materialization of any risks and make appropriate response measures to cushion the economy. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman and members, I thank you once again for giving us this opportunity to engage with you. We remain available to support the committee when called upon during this approval process. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and honorable members.
Thank you very much, CS, for that comprehensive response to the questions that we raised with you. Members, I want to give you the floor so that you can... Yes, I'll give you the opportunity. I want to give you an opportunity. I want members to restrict your questions to the presentation which has been done by the minister. You may have extracurricular issues, but that may be accepted. But for the first phase of questions, let us focus on the presentation. Yes, the Honorable Ruth Busia.
Thank you, Ruth Odinga, MP Kisumu County. Thank you for the presentation. Mine was just to point out that Annex 2 and 3, especially on the PPP and all, I'm missing here. We don't have them, the Annex 2 and 3, because we wanted to see that. That's what I wanted to say during that time. We'll probably get another chance later.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you will be provided with that section. Yes, the Honorable David Chim.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, CS and the team, for a very elaborate and, sometimes especially there's so much jargon, but today the paper has no jargon at all.
And so even as a lawyer, I've been able to follow vividly. I just had questions arising from the presentation on what has happened in the course of the week. About savings you are making, especially on implementation of the EGP. What is the performance so far? What savings are you making therein? What are some of the difficulties? Because it was meant to help us make some savings. The return of investments, or value for money, on the investments you make on KRA. Because you keep falling back. If you calling back almost every single year on an issue you've said yourself. And Chair, finally, yesterday we had the OAG coming before us. There was an issue about you do very well allocations, Chair, and in fact provisions were made for ministries, and it's very good. But the performance of the money you're allocating, not financial audits, but value for money audits. I would like, this is regard to implementation of the budget, Chair. The performance audits that are being churned out by the Auditor General, how are you ensuring that your ministries, the ministries supporting, are ensuring that this is adhered to and that you are getting value for money as a country? And finally, on counties, CS, is there something you can do as a ministry to discipline, follow up, and know how much the counties are collecting on own source revenue? Because it's an area that is so grey, we as a community don't know how to deal with it, but we believe that as a ministry you are equipped well to deal with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Waziri, just related to the matter of Auditor General, when they appeared before us, they are asking that their funding formula be changed or be amended in law, because they are saying they cannot be fighting for resources with the agencies and institutions that they are auditing. That when they go for sector hearings, sometimes they are emasculated. And so they are requesting that we come up with a bill that would possibly give them, outright allocation in the law. I don't know whether what you want to say about that. Yes, next question, Dr. Makalimu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I also want to join our chain in appreciating the presentation. Mr. Chairman, you are aware we have been meeting departments in the course of this week, and if you allow me in a very summarized way, I just want to raise a number of issues which have come up. The first one, in your presentation, you are saying contingency fund this year, you are allocating 2 billion. In the past, we have been allocating 5 billion. And bearing in mind what you are saying about the likely external shocks in the coming year, so would it not have been wise to allocate more resources under contingency so that it can take care of those emergencies? The second point was the issue of there are a lot of uncompleted projects all over the country, and when you look at the allocations in the budget, they are spread all over. You are allocating resources which will not be able to complete them. So despite the allocations you're giving them, they will still remain allocated based on the projected budget. And we're wondering, is that really wise in terms of planning and the project implementation? Would it not be wise to pick a few which you allocate and complete them, they start being used, and then we can move to the next level? The other issue, a lot of pending bills across all the sectors. The result of these pending bills is a result of poor exchequer release or inadequate exchequer release. So I don't know. We have this budget which we are going to be passing very soon, but in terms of exchequer releases, it seems to be leading a lot to pending bills. I would want to hear from you what strategies are in place to ensure that whatever projects are approved will be completed. The last item, we approved the BPS as Parliament, and when you have looked at the budget, there is a lot of deviation from the BPS figures, actually cutting across all the sectors. I was wondering then, are we making the BPS irrelevant? Is there a need to continue approving it the way things are as of today, because it seems not to be adhering to it? And the law is very clear. If you deviate from the BPS, then obviously there is need for explanation why we are deviating. So that's another area possibly, Mr. Chairman, if you allow, the CS should be commenting on. Then basically the issue of audit reports. A lot of recommendations have been made, have been approved by Parliament, but we don't seem to factor these recommendations when it comes to budgeting. The would say this accounting officer may have misapplied resources, this ministry has not used resources. So from where you sit in CS, and I'm happy that used to be the chair park, because you know these things. So what do we need to do to implement some of these recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, just to give more impetus to the questions raised by Dr. Makali Mulu. On this question number 1, on the need to complete ongoing projects and allocate sufficient resources for them to be completed. The Departmental Committee on Trade appeared before us, and they are recommending that in this financial year, we do not allocate resources to KIPES, because they are saying that there are some KIPES that have been completed, but they have not been operationalized. What is your view? That we do not start new KIPES, but we ensure that the ones completed are operationalized with the resources that were factored in the BPS for the same? I think you will respond on that question alongside the one that has been asked by Dr. Makali. Yes, Dr. Chikati.
Thank you, Chair, for the good presentation. Asante sana. Now, there's been a lot of negative discussion on SHA. On page 12, number 30, you talk about enrollment of 24 million Kenyans into SHA. You could have also talked about the number that is benefiting from SHA, because so that we can use it even to really tackle the negative issues coming around it. Because enrollment is not an issue, usage is the issue. Okay, so that is my observation. Number 2, there are some people who want to take advantage of the negative fuel situation when we really know the source of the problem surrounding the fuel situation in Kenya. What I have seen is you wait until this negative talk strikes is when you respond. 50% of Kenyans don't know that there is war somewhere else, which is causing this. And these people are taking advantage of that. What can you do so that you create awareness to the Kenyans that sincerely there is war in the Middle East, and it is very harmful when it comes to our economy, and we prepare for tough times, and so that they can be able to understand. Where I come from in Tongaren is purely rural. There is no town in Tongaren. I'll give you an example. The biggest hotel in Tongaren has mandazi of 10 bob, but you can also negotiate to 5 bob. You can see that the level of understanding of those people. Yes, actually, despite the fact that we have Jesus. And so, you really need to create awareness for the Kenyans to understand that there is a situation, so that you don't give room to anybody to take advantage of that situation.
Thank you. Let me just also enrich that question by the Honorable Dr. Chikati on SHA. Waziri, the Departmental Committee on Health, have told us that if we enhance primary health care allocation from 18 billion to 28 billion, then we will be able to address the challenges that are being raised by Dr. Chikati here, especially on the number of Kenyans who have enrolled that has gone up from 9 million to about 28 million. That little enhancement would have a complete impact on the challenges that SHA is facing. I would think that you want to respond to us on that. The Honorable Naisula.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, CS, for your presentation. I must commend Treasury, especially on issues that touch on the youth the issues of internship programs, the money that has been allocated to Public Service Commission, teachers and health professionals, and also the issue of affordable housing, how the youth will be engaged. And we saw also in the budget that the intern teachers, there is an allocation for them to be absorbed. So that is that's a good thing. I wanted to ask, because you have stated the subsidies that are given under agriculture, and when you look at it, it's mostly on crop. You know, as a country, we rarely see an investment, a substantial investment on livestock farming as a country, and we know what it does. So I really wanted to know the livestock component in our budget as it stands. Then the second thing is the issue of pending bills. It continues to arise, especially from most departmental committees who come before us. It would be important to know where we stand. We know there was a committee as a country. Where do we stand in terms of paying pending bills? The third issue, I like that you have observed that most of the MDAs do not list the names and locations of where projects are. And this definitely will bring an issue of inequality across the country, because if someone is in a certain department, probably comes from a certain region, they will put development or allocate development to their region, and because as you sit in treasury, you will not know where these projects are. So you'd find whoever sits at an MDA, where, you know, someone who sits in water, all water projects go to a certain region. If it is roads, same. So I think that is a very important point that you have noted, and it should be taken seriously as you look at it as Treasury, just to ensure that there is equity in terms of development across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mutuse.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good afternoon, Waziri. On the issue of SHA, yes, there are a lot of positives. We know NHIF had 6 million members. SHA has about 27 million members. We also know that the primary healthcare component is government funded, critical healthcare and emergency is government funded, but there are also the elements which are funded through premiums. Out of the 27 million who have enrolled in SHA, how many are paying premiums? And does it make accurate sense in terms of those who are paying and those who are not paying, being able to bridge for each other so that we are able to pay, to reimburse especially public facilities on time, because there seems to be a problem. Number two, on PPPs, you are saying that we are bridging part of our deficit through leveraging on PPP. Kenyans would want to know whether there are some successful PPP projects that you can enumerate, so that we can know this year, last year, and going forward. These are some of the successful PPP projects that we have in the country. Number three and second last is on the issue, I am waiting, is on the issue of land rent and this introduction. I know land rent has been with us, and I know reforms on land rent and at the county level also land rates are long overdue. The way we calculate land rents is based on the value of the land, so that you place a percentage on the value of the land, so then you know how much you are charging. You know, land is an emotive issue in this country, and we are also in an electioneering year. Much as this is long overdue, I would have wanted to engage us on whether this is the right time to introduce an elevated tax on land, given that this is an electioneering year and land being the motive issue that it is. And lastly, Waziri, people have said you have done very well in terms of engaging members of the public, probably the first Minister of Finance to leave the office and go out there to engage members of the public. But something that is going on in social media. They are saying that you placed some people from a political office in shops, so you stage managed. Maybe it is an opportunity for you to tell Kenyans whether indeed you stage managed the public participation.
Members, I think we will have to go up to phases of questions so that we allow him to respond to those ones comprehensively, then we take the second phase. Yes, Honorable Naisula.
You asked my question.
I'm so sorry. I wanted just quickly to ask the issue of capitation for education. It continues to be a matter that keeps arising. Where do we stand, and can it always be the first charge on matters education?
Let's have two more questions, then we ask Waziri to respond. On this side, let's have the Honorable Robi, and then on this side we have the Honorable Nyakundi. Thank you. Then lastly, the Vice Chairman will ask, then the Waziri you can respond. Robi.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Mine is on table 5, page 17. That is youth programs. Number 2, if you can see where there is number 2. Waziri, let us understand the allocation of 141 million for construction of constituency industrial development centers. This money is allocated almost every financial year, but for example, like in my constituency, I've never received this money. I can't trace it anywhere. I don't know, we are members of parliament. I don't know whether other MPs get these funds. And how is this money distributed to 290 constituencies? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nyakundi.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. for Treasury for the good presentation. Mine is just one question. There has been a serious outcry on EGP. Some people complain that the system is slow, others complain the OTP takes time and such kind of things. I don't know, is it because there is lack of enough capacity building on EGP or what? Thank you.
The Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Waziri, for the good work you're doing, and especially when you engage members of the public. You are in the bungo la mwananchi, and I want to really appreciate that. I think if other ministers could follow your step, then government programs would really be highlighted among the wananchi. I'll still follow up where my treasurer left. Mine was on EGP. What have we achieved so far since the start of the EGP, and how successful is it in terms of implementation, and what is the way forward? The second one is on single treasury account, which we've always talked. How far are we? Then thirdly, on Hustler Fund. What happened to the Hustler Fund? I've seen we've moved into Nyota and we are leaving the Hustler Fund. What happened to it? We're no longer talking about it yet. We know that money has been was put there. And then lastly, what the Honorable Cheng talked about on the issue about the KRA. In the supplementary, we gave some money to KRA, and we've been doing that kind of investment. So we expect, how soon do we expect to get any returns from KRA? And recently, I think the day before yesterday, the office of the auditor was here, and they pointed out the weakness in the internal audit mechanisms within KRA as being part of the leakages. Have they pointed out to you, and what have you done about them? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before the Waziri responds to the first phase of questions, let's have the new members who have just come in to introduce themselves. Let's start with the Honorable Babu Owino.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I'm Babu Owino, member of the Budget Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other member who wants to introduce themselves? Yes. Yes, the incoming governor of Nairobi also.
Okay.
Yes. The Honorable Liam Gogo, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Lilian Gogo. I'm the MP for Rangwe and a member of this committee.
Waziri, please, Dr. John Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. John Paul Murigi is my name, MP Gembe South Constituency and a member.
Thank you, Waziri. Please respond, then we will take the second phase of questions.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, allow me to respond. I think the first concern that was raised by Honorable Ruth has actually been addressed by you. We have the Annex number 2 and 3 will supply more copies, but the Chair has the copies. On Honorable David Ochieng, EGP, and that will also address further questions on this matter. On the reforms under EGP, we started slow. Of course, with any new system, there are challenges, and there were a number of them, largely out of use of the system. But we continue to train and continue to provide technical support. And I'm happy to see that now almost the entire government is onboarded into EGP. And we have made a decision, even though this particular financial year 2025-26, we gave a number of exemptions on use of EGP, especially on emergency situations and items that needed to be procured fast. But now in the next financial year, we have taken a policy decision that no one will be exempted from use of EGP, because clearly we are seeing perfect improvement in terms of use of this system. Almost all MDAs are now capable and able to use the system. The training has been well, and almost every MDA, State Department, has enough personnel trained on EGP. So in terms of how much you have saved, I may not have the data now, but I think this is one area. There are a number of areas that I will address more comprehensively on the 11th of next month in my budget speech. So I will make sure that this is one of those things that are captured alongside, thank you, alongside some other measures that we have taken, and give a report on what we have been able to achieve. In fact, I've been asked about EGP, I've been asked about Treasury Single Account. We will be able to bring out what these reforms have helped us in terms of realizing value for money. On KRA value for money, yes, we have actually invested in KRA. Although we were slow in disbursing the amount that was allocated to Kenya Revenue Authority, the 17 billion, I don't know whether we have now disbursed. We are on course in disbursing, but the reforms are encouraging in terms of automating the systems. And by the way, the reforms are wide-ranging. It's not just the systems. There are a number of reforms, including even motivation to staff. Out of that allocation, about 5 billion was just targeting giving support to staff in terms of empowerment and in terms of motivation and supporting health cover and all that, so that we have a motivated staff at KRA. You don't expect someone who probably has a headache about treatment of a child or a wife and to collect revenue and remit. So these are things that are taking place. There is also personnel changes, I'm sure you are aware, and so we were actually promised that we would start seeing the results of this after March, which is the month of April, although the performance of April improved a bit, but due to this global disruption, again, you are not able to determine whether it has been impacted on the global shocks or lack of these reforms realizing their intended objective. And that's about value for money audits. I think it was tied to KRA, yeah. And then on councils enhancing discipline, we have proposed as National Treasury an integrated system county integrated own source revenue integrated system. But this has faced a bit of challenge because a council of governors were resisting some of the provisions and initially resisting the whole concept. But after further engagement and negotiation, we are fine-tuning the law so that we have an integrated way of collecting revenue at the counties. It doesn't make sense that we have 47 counties and each is operating their own systems, some manual, some digitized. We have recommended, because that is a mandate that is given to National Treasury, to prescribe systems that are used by government at both levels. So we have been very candid to them that this is not something that you can claim independence. You have to remember that that responsibility, the Constitution has placed it on the National Treasury. So we are reaching somewhere. Maybe what we now need to do is to fast track it. But it is being coordinated at IBEC through the Office of the Deputy President. Auditor General competing for money with other MDS and agencies, that could be correct because we have sector hearings. But again, the Auditor General's office is placed under a category where they are almost similar. Chair, I am a bit reluctant in allowing for more of making our budget rigid, because then there would be no need for a budget committee to National Treasury. Because what we see is a very rigid budget. I will tell you, we have a budget with very limited flexibility. I hear people talk a lot about cut here, cut there. There is very little to cut. I will tell you, I will give you just in summary. Chair, today we are projecting to collect 3.63 trillion. Out of that, 1.5 goes to CFS. Interest payment alone is to 1.2, over 1.2 trillion. And then you have the pensions, and you have contribution to pensions, and you have constitutional office holders. Collectively, that's 1.5 trillion. Then about $1 trillion goes into paying salaries. That is for our discipline forces and other public servants. 702 goes to other public officers, and then over 200, actually 290 something, goes over 996 billion is salaries to national government public officers. So if you remove 1 trillion and 1.5 trillion, you remain with about 1.1 trillion. And again, you have the counties, minimum now, 420. I don't know how much it will be by the time we are done with the negotiation. I just wish and hope that it is maintained at 420, especially given the uncertainty we are in. But remove that from the 1.1 trillion, how much is left? Less than 700 billion, 600 something. Now that is where you have money for CDF, which is 61 billion. You have money for GAF, which is about 4 billion. Then you go to primary healthcare, is 19 billion, 19.1. Emergency chronic and critical illness, 4 billion. Then you go to education, capitation. I've been asked about capitation. We are providing 54 billion for free-day secondary education, 31 billion to JSS, another 7 billion to the primary education. You have higher education loans for over 56 billion, and you have the cash transfers to the elderly, 25 billion. I can go on and on. What I am saying is, do we have really a budget even to wiggle around? Nothing. We have a very inflexible budget. So I'm reluctant in again going ahead to tie our budget to some percentages. I hear almost everyone wants to tie budget to percentages. And then if that is the case, you just have Kenya Revenue Authority and maybe employ some clerks and put the National Treasury to be adding the figures because it's already distributed. You don't even need economic planning department. It's a waste of time. You don't need even budget committee, by the way. I think you just need maybe parliamentary budget office. You also don't need senior staff. Just have some clerks there to put the figures together for parliament to say aye, and then just as a ritual. And then that's the end of it. So what I'm advising against is for us to fall to the temptation of trying to allow everyone else to have a pie already put in law of the budget. We have to be a country that balances all things and plans. On questions by my friend Makali Mulu, contingency fund, even this financial year, we have just 2 billion in the budget. But I agree with you, there may be need. But you see, the contingency fund should, we usually don't use it to address external shocks. We usually use this maybe just to address emergencies which are internal in nature, like places, floods, drought. External shocks may be difficult to deal with under contingency funding. We may just quickly adjust our macros and fiscal framework to deal with external shocks. I agree on the incomplete projects that this is something that we need to talk about. But again, we have to balance it with historical injustices. Most of the ongoing projects, you will find them concentrated on certain specific regions and areas. And that is why you will find that, and that I will tie it to another question that I was asked about why information is not made available for the distribution of the budget in terms of regions and sub-counties. Sometimes it is deliberate because we find sometimes it is deliberate because you find budgetary provisions are skewed, very, very skewed. And that is why at the National Treasury sometimes I have fights with the ministries and departments, because when they tell us, when I bring my budget, usiguze, leave it as it is. But I tell them I'm also here to ensure inclusivity and balancing of budget in the whole country. I can't just be seated here and be a conveyor belt for your budgets. I have to also rationalize and look at it. So it sometimes brings some misunderstanding. I and many of our colleagues will agree with me, especially those who are coming from marginalized areas, that I've invited them to come and probably we see ways of supporting their region as apart from what MDS do. Because there is a budgetary mindset in this country where budget provisions are always thought should be going to some specific areas. And I think that is something that we gradually must kill. All regions, look at what is now happening in Wajir. Who knew that Wajir could host an event like the one we are going to have on Monday? And I saw on one of the newspapers yesterday a pictorial picture of what Wajir is today. Roads within the town and the football pitch, and you just love it. You know, if that could happen for some years in this country, we would make progress. And this idea of people feeling excluded from our national discourse would be a thing of the past, and that is what you need for an inclusive country and economy. I am not saying that we now leave completely those who have probably been benefiting, because again, if you leave them out within no time, they will be where the others are today, and that is not what we want. We want a country that is moving together. On pending bills is because of inadequate exchequer releases. That is actually true. That's one of the reasons or contributing factors to pending bills. But if you notice from 2024, 25, now 25, 26, we have been trying very much to make sure that we release the exchequer in good time. And it is not just at the national government level. In fact, if you look at the absorption of our development budget, road sector and the rest, we have really done very well in terms of releasing money, even the money for carer, including even public participation roads. We have released the money, development budget of roads. Most of the roads that were in the 25, 26 budget have been procured as we speak. Unless maybe challenges of procurement. But we have tried to release the money so that they are procured in good time. They are started before the end of the financial year so that the money is absorbed. Come to even counties. We have only the month of May and June to disburse. We have been very up to date. Even CDF members will agree with me that we have disbursed. Actually, we took a policy decision at the Treasury, a deliberate decision that every month, we divide, actually the first 2 months passed, then the 10 months we divided the outstanding amount, and we found it was 5.3 billion. And we said every month we'll be disbursing 5.3 billion to CDF. And I'm happy to say that we've done that, I think, up to the month of May. We have only the month of June left. And before the month of June, we will disburse that. And you can see now, the Parliament has no reason to call me. In the counties, you are not seeing governors calling for press conferences to demand for their money. And that is why sometimes I say, those who are saying, oh, we are not doing much, and we are not doing well, this government has collapsed. A failed government cannot be disbursing counties, funds to counties in good time. and regularly. A failed government cannot be disbursing money to CDA in record time. A failed government has already disbursed the entire GAF, the 4 billion, in good time. A failed government cannot be the one paying salaries by the fifth day of the following month. A failed government cannot be a one that releases capitation even before schools are open. I know there is the question of how much, but the entire budget is being released and in good time. We are releasing money before schools open. We are releasing money to development projects, including roads, in good time. So how is this government failed? This government could only have failed in the minds of people who don't really accept it.
Waziri, on that point, yes, this committee is aligned. This committee is in support of Bob's government. We just have two of my members who are going to contest for gubernatorial seats, who are a bit reluctant to support the government because they need to win their seats when they're in opposition. Otherwise, the point you have raised is very well.
Chairman,
I'm just supporting your point that this committee is supporting.
And both of them are my good friends, and I wish them good luck. And I can see one of them who is my very good, actually my student and my son. Panicked when I was making some movements in Nairobi. I am not going to run for Governor Nairobi. I know it would have been very difficult for my student to win if I was running, but I'm going to spare you. I wish you well. So I was just saying, actually I was speaking to Kenyans. You know, there has been this talk out there like nothing is happening. But I just look at today and look at 2022, look at 2021, Chairman. We are meeting our financial obligations like we have all because of proper planning. So that is what I wanted to mention. On approved BPS, if you look at the figures on BPS, and we provided that if you look at page 8, the variance is not so much. In fact, what we are required to do is if the variation in as a global figure is above 10%, then we need to really give. But the variation is less than about 0.6%. And we have really tried to live within or near. It cannot be exact because again, from February, a few figures have changed. But you can see the figures are very close to what the House approved. On audit reports, yes, we get them and we prepare Treasury memorandum. And the recommendations actually we give to the sector groups to make sure that they are aligned when they are dividing the budget or the envelope. It's aligned to the recommendations of the auditor's report.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, on the issue of the contingency fund, what I was saying is, as a result of external shocks, you are likely to have a lot of domestic emergencies. So I was saying we need to factor in more resources so that those domestic emergencies can be addressed. And that was the discussion. I'm one of the few people who know that you can't use contingency to sort out external shocks. So that was the thinking. Maybe you need to factor in that.
But maybe the other issue that maybe may come up on contingency fund is maybe you can share with us the utilization for the past allocations. I'm of the view that maybe it has not been utilized. Maybe the funds are
actually that is what I wanted to say, Chair. We already have 7.5 billion in the fund. You know, the fund billion would just be in addition to the 7.5. But besides that, in terms of dealing with the external shocks, we have already an agreement with the World Bank, and we have already applied for more funding from World Bank. How much is it? 500, about 580 million US dollars to support the shocks that we are likely to face. So we are already very much alert and aware of how to deal with the external shocks.
But Wazir, actually the point you have said was raised. We discussed it and there was a very controversial issue because you know, you are not using contingency fund, which is very well cleared, especially in terms of accountability procedures, and there is a lot of 223. So that's something really we need to discuss.
Mr. Chairman, you know, contingency fund is not so much. and we have so much coming under 2 to 3. And even if you spend on contingency fund, the law requires that you regularize it under supplementary budget and take it back. In fact, it's like money you borrow. It's like a loan. You are not supposed to spend it and it goes. So that is one. And Honorable Makani, since you passed supplementary 1, up to now I have not approved even a single 2 to 3. So that just would tell you how much we have been resisting the use of Article 2 to 3. Up to today, the 28th of May, we have not approved. I have not approved any single 2 to 3.
Waziri, you know, that issue, we really discussed it in the committee. And, you know, Dr. Makali Mulo sits at the apex of the United Police Making Organ of the United Opposition. So I had advised him that he should not try to influence policy of government from outside until his party leader becomes the president. Then we can be able to influence those policies. So we agree that he will not be pushing for such things within this committee. But you can proceed.
Thank you. Now, I don't know what was asked about the Departmental Committee on Trade. What is it that they say?
They are in line with the need to complete ongoing projects before starting new ones. So they are recommending that the allocations to kites be used for, you know, equipping the already established kites, so that for this financial year we do not start new kites.
Yeah, but my advice would be to the departmental committees. They're the ones oversighting the MDS and the state departments. They should agree and align with because you see, I can't also be sitting at the National Treasury and start thinking for the state departments because they would be fighting with me. Who has told you we want this here? So they should be very firm in their report to the various departments that they are oversighting and insist that the money is utilized properly. On Honorable Chikati's questions, the number of beneficiaries, people benefiting from SHA usage, I may not have the figure here with me. I think that is something that the SHA board can provide. But what I know is many people are benefiting from SHA. What we probably need to do is to allocate more resources, which I will explain, on primary healthcare, because I think that is where the challenge is. The primary healthcare is supposed to be exclusively funded by the government. And so the requirement is about 30 billion. But we have consistently we are increasing that budget. We start before the end of this financial year, we provided only 13. By the time we did the supplementary one, it's now 19.1. And that is what we have provided again in 2026-27. But emergency, chronic, and critical illnesses is doing very well, with an allocation of 4 billion. If you get those who have been going through these challenges, they will tell you that if there is anything they support under SHA, is the support for chronic, critical, and emergency illnesses. And so that is an area that we are still going to support 100%. In terms of, I was also asked how many people are actively contributing out of the over 27 million. We have about 5 million contributors for the payroll of formal, and then about 900,000 to 1 million who are under informal sector. A number of people are still not contributing, but I think that is the work now of SHA and the ministry to make sure that those who are able to contribute, so that we can only support the indigents. We shouldn't be supporting everyone, especially under the insurance scheme. And that is, because again, it may not be sustainable, and then we get back to where NHIF was. But my plea is we need to support SHA and just improve it. Let us not look back, thinking of like Lot's wife, looking back to what we had already come from. NHIF was not working. Let us make SHA working. The government will do its part to support primary health care, critical, chronic, and emergency illnesses. But now something needs to be done on the shift side so that this fund is fully sustainable. On fuel situation, maybe we should have done the communication better, or we should have been more forthright and ahead in terms of communication. But it is not that the people who are actually talking a lot about fuel and trying to make the situation worse are not people who don't understand. They are people who are playing politics with this crisis. Everyone knows that there is a crisis globally. We watch CNN, we watch Al Jazeera, we watch BBC. We know that at least in Kenya, we are still guaranteed of supply of fuel. There are countries with challenges. Prices have increased everywhere, whether it is industrial countries, even countries who are net exporters of fuel, like the US. The prices have gone up almost 80%. There are so many countries in the world with which were okay, but are now not very fine. Prices have gone up. The government has intervened. We have intervened in terms of VAT with the help of the National Assembly. We have intervened with the fuel subsidy. Yesterday I saw one of our friends, a member of parliament, telling us to cut. And I'm happy you asked him, where do we cut? And he said, we cut money from foreign travel.
And CDF.
And CDF. So how much from CDF? I wish you asked him. 2 billion. So then if we remove the entire budget for foreign travel, no one leaves this country for 1 year. How much will we be saving? It is 8.5 billion. So I don't know whether that 10 billion can subsidize fuel for how many months. And you know, you talk so loudly like you think you want people to believe you are the one who can run the economy. And really you don't even talk with figures. And by the way, Chairman, I'm not with any attitude about Parliament. That amount of 8 billion, 8.5, Parliament consumes 3.3. So, Chairman, the executive is only consuming 4.9 billion. And that 4.9, out of that 4.9, foreign affairs consumes 2.5 billion. Foreign affairs without traveling. So what foreign affairs is that? And then you have IBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, at 540 million. Then you have National Treasury for full disclosure, 171. We are one of the few high spenders, 171 million. But I have to go with my team to the spring. By the way, I'm one of the ministers who don't travel. But I have to go to the spring meeting, World Bank, IMF every year, twice. So you want to keep me here, how do I engage? And I have to go to ADB and get you some money. So you see, when you see people coming here, Chairman, and the honorable members, and they make wild statements how you can save money from foreign travel. You know, if I didn't mention this figure, Kenyans would think that Kenya is a traveling nation. That we have a government that spends so much money on foreign travel. I deliberately carried these statistics so that Kenyans can understand that we are not spending so much on foreign travel. It's a myth. It's just a myth. We are not spending so much. 8.5 billion for the whole government, including judiciary, National Assembly, Senate, everybody, including executive, all the ministries, 8.5 billion. So, in terms of fuel, I think the government has done...
John Paul has a point of order.
Waziri, I would like also you to maybe expound to us, if we scrap off 8%, as they are saying, what will be the effect? 8% of VAT. 8% of the VAT on the petroleum we exempt. What will be the impact?
First of all, the 8% that we...
On the same, I just added something. Waziri, can you also help us understand, because the former chair emeritus said that we stop using a lot of jargon that our fuel comes from the Strait of Hormuz. We can be able to know where does our fuel come from, because they say whatever is happening in Iran does not affect G2G as far as Kenyan government is concerned. And he said that our fuel doesn't pass. He said that in the floor of the house, that doesn't pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Can you maybe probably help us to understand?
Aziri, you can respond on those ones, though those are not part of the questions for this meeting, but because the members are eager to understand, I'll allow you to just mention a bit about.
I think they're good questions. Now, on the issue of reducing VAT to zero from where it is today of 8% for 3 months, I think the National Assembly passed the 3 months. First, let us ask ourselves, what is the impact of reducing it from 16 to 8%? The impact is 12 billion per month lost revenue. So the 2 months is 24 billion. If you do 3 months, it's about 36 billion. Now, if you do, so we are losing 12 billion per month. If you do another 8%, another 12 billion. So it will be 24 billion per month. We are looking at about over 200 billion in a year lost revenue or something like that. Now, I don't know where we are going to cut because again, you know, we must look at the budget in its totality. I've just reported here, Chair, that we have funded almost all sectors. We are in the month of May. So if you cause any deficit in our budget, I will either go for people's salaries, because there's nothing to cut. I've released money largely for development. The only thing I've not paid is salary for May and June. So do you want me to cut people's salary and fund this? And you see, when you are also subsidizing, you must look at it in the economic in totality. There is tomorrow. If we use the entire fuel subsidy in 1 month, what happened the following month? Yeah? If you subsidize 100%, what then happens the following month? No one will remember that you subsidized the previous month. If the following month jumps, the entire increase is absorbed by the economy. It will not be good. So that is why we have been very careful. In terms of where our fuel comes from, we have 3 oil marketing companies. There is Saudi Aramco. There is what we call, then we have ENOC, Emirates National Oil Company. Now, Emirates National Oil Company has been sourcing for oil from UAE and their surrounding, and also ADNOC, Saudi Aramco from Saudi Arabia. Now, I think that to me answers it. We don't have to go to the geography of that region to understand what's happening. But even assuming it is the case, are we not aware that even in Saudi Arabia there is disruption? That some refineries have been hit by Iran, that in UAE, that refineries have been hit. In fact, it will take months. I said even after the war, there will be a period of recovery. Let's say 4 months for these refineries to be fixed. And the fuel prices across the globe have gone up. Even if you source for fuel from wherever, India or wherever, the only advantage we have today, Chairman, is that we have a contract with these oil marketing companies. And that is why I tell people, anyone who is telling us to discontinue G2G now is actually a murderer. He wants to kill this economy completely. It's like a suicide bomber. Because this is not the time to discontinue a contract you already have. In fact, these companies would be very glad to terminate the contract now, because they are not making much money out of this arrangement. So this is not the time to say let us liberalize, let anyone who wants. What if no one comes to supply us with fuel? You will see dry pumps, and that's not what we want. So to me, I treat some of these comments by our friend. You are the people who spoiled him and made him emeritus. He's a former chairman. So the former chairman, I think I take his comments as political. I don't want so much. On SHA, enhancing the budget to 28 billion from 19.1, yeah. But again, actually the requirement is about 30 billion. I agree. But because of competing needs, You have education to fund, you have other areas to fund, you have security to fund. So we have to balance off this and just have some adequate financing. Also there is some fertilizer, not enough because we have constrained fiscal space. Intern teachers, Honorable Naisula, yes, it is true. We are actually out of them, we are confirming 20,000 intern teachers in this coming financial year, and we will recruit about 24,000 intern teachers. Subsidies mostly on crops and livestock, and not livestock. Yeah, sometimes I agree that we pay a lot of attention on crops and we forget about livestock and others. But I can see we have some intervention on livestock, not enough on artificial insemination and others, and also blue economy. We have some intervention on the blue economy. But I've taken your comment positively. We probably need to look at that much more. On pending bills, we have the committee has completed its work. 235 billion of pending bills have been approved for payment. About 80 billion have already been paid. 155 billion yet to be paid. The 80 billion under the road sector. The 155 billion, we are preparing a cabinet memorandum to take to the cabinet to approve it, and then once approved, then we will see if we can put it below the line and have a strategy on settling the pending bills. Yeah, I think I answered the question on MDS not listing the regions, that is inclusivity. I have answered that. Honorable Mutuse, you are also on SHA. How many are paying? I think I've answered that earlier. PPPs, successful PPP projects. I can just read the PPP projects. Under operations and maintenance, we have 6 in number. We have Nairobi Expressway, which was done and concluded. Lot 3 of Road Annuity Program. Lot 18 of Road Annuity Program and Lot 15 of Annuity Road Program. Then we have 35 megawatts of Sosian, I don't know what is today, Sosian Menengai Geothermal Power Plant Project. And then we have Galana Kulalu Nafaka Food Security Project. Those ones are ongoing. Then in the construction, we have Kenya Defense Forces Residential Accommodation. We have 35 megawatts Kuntam Menengai Geothermal Power Plant Project and another 35 megawatts Or Power 22 Menengai Geothermal Power Plant. And then we have Nairobi Nakuru Mau Summit Highway, which everybody knows. It's famously called Rironi Mau Summit. Under commercial, which are under commercial clause. The first one was operation and maintenance. Then we have construction, which the ones that are under commercial clause, we have supply of smart driving license and associated services. Then we have power transmission lines and substations sponsored by Africa 50 and Power Grid. Then under negotiations, we have Sabaki water carrier, we have Lamu water desalination plant, and then we have Eldoret solar power plant and solar powered street lighting and upgrade. Under procurement and the tender stages, we have Stony Athi affordable housing units, we have MTRH training complex, we have University of Nairobi purpose-built student hostels, we have Pwani teaching and referral hostel. Under feasibility study, these ones are very many. They are 14 in number. I don't know, including Nairobi Mombasa Expressway, Ndaragwa 2 dam water supply, Mzima 2 water spring, Londiani Dam, Maragwa, Naivasha, Njoro Cancer Center at Meru, Kenyatta National Hospital staff, Nairobi Smart Development, Mombasa Southern Bypass operation of Dongokundu, Part 1, and development of a biotech life. Then we have early stage preparations. There are also so many, including Korusoe Dam. I wanted to be very particular on that. And so that is it, Chairman. I think I've tried to address that. Chairman, how about the High Grand Force Dam?
Members,
Those ones are, that is part of the early development.
Thank you. Members,
it's in the list.
Okay.
We could supply that list.
Thank you. Members, as we go.
Am I done?
Yes.
I still have some few. I still have some few. On land rents, is this the right time to change the rents? But you see, Honorable Mutuse, you are right. But remember, there is a petition already in Parliament that we should be taxing wealth from Kenyans themselves, that we should tax wealth. And we need to go for people who have wealth, not the people who don't have wealth. So if we protect these people, and there are not many, so why do we protect them and Mama Mboga is paying too much? So it is balancing the two. We need to go for wealth and not trade and income. But there is also no right time. I think if something is morally right, we just need to do it. And by the way, the rents would not increase, so it will increase reasonably. What we are saying, if you are in Nairobi, Upper Hill, and you are still paying 20,000 per month on a property worth 100 million, for example, is it really fair that you are paying 20,000 per month? Yeah. It's only the towns, not your ancestral home, like someone was trying to make it. And now the land you have inherited from your, the presidential candidate of Mashako, Honorable Mashako, that so lands. No, there's nothing like that. It's not one of the changes that we are thinking about under land rent. Only the towns and those who are paying low rent. But that is for Kenya. When it comes to National Assembly, it has not come yet. It's not even financed, so I shouldn't even bother discussing it now. Public participations, yes. Honorable Mutise, you asked me whether we brought people from so who is this shop owner who opened the shop for people from a political party to come and posture in their shops? By the way, there are two shops that I visited, and it was very, to me, I really enjoyed that engagement. The two shops that I visited, one belonged to a gentleman from the Rift Valley, and another from two ladies who are from Central Province, former Central Province. So, and I engaged, and if you looked at them, you could even see their political leaning, and it was not uniform. Yeah, and that is the kind of engagement we want. You could see one person, one of the shop owners, clearly leaning towards government, and the other one, you could see very serious questions, and you could see this one is not really aligned to government. So I walked to those two shops, and I engaged with them, and I left. And to me, I think I will be doing much more of that, just to understand really how the business is doing. But Mutuse, don't worry. Anything you do, people will criticize. If you don't do public participation, they will ask why you are not doing. If you go to those shops, they will say you are. But even you go to UND, they will say people from the one political. But this was advertised, so why didn't I have a scam? And those who came, we allowed them to ask questions. Anyway, let me move. Honorable Nasuda asked another thing on capitation for education. We really, actually, capitation, the problem is not exchequer release. Capitation, they are complaining about budgetary provision. And I think I've addressed this issue before. I wish we had enough money to provide for every child in this country the 22,000 that was paid. But we are really trying to increase that amount to what is provided in our policy guidelines. The only problem is we have competing interests, honorable members. But we are really trying. But in terms of releasing capitation, the moment we release money now before schools are open. Construction of constituency industrial development centers, how is it distributed? It's done by a Ministry of MSMEs. So I think this one can be directed, honorable, that they use. On outcry on EGP has gone down. That has really gone down. Now, almost every department has picked up. Honorable Pukosi, the Vice Chair, what have we achieved so far on the EGP? I think I've addressed that. But when I have committed myself on EGP, Treasury Single Account, I will come and all the reforms that we have initiated, I will come with a more comprehensive report to the National Assembly on the 11th of June. We left Hustler Fund. No, we have just allowed now Hustler Fund to largely operate on refinancing, because they should be collecting, recovering the loans and disbursing. So we have provided little amount. Nyota is also supported by development partners. So they are running parallel. There are different initiatives and targeting different people. Because Nyota, we are starting with training, and we are starting with many other programs, and then giving this startup capital. KRA investment, I think I answered that. Auditor General pointed out the weaknesses in internal audit of KRA. Yeah, I think we are working on reforms in KRA, including their internal audit department, and also trying to have National Treasury to give capacity. My peers here requested for some support for internal audit of the National Treasury. I rejected his request for more funding, but I think we'll consider it in 2026, 27. Now you can see, I even reject the request for my peers so that we don't spend anything more this year. And that shows you we are doing something to consolidate on fiscal consolidation. I think I will end there.
Thank you, Waziri. Just to inform you that the Honorable Mashako has two presidential candidates. One in Linda Wananchi, another one in United Opposition. In the next 2 months, we'll make a decision on which one to support. But he's likely to come to broad-based government. So when you see him, treat him very well. Members, before I allow more questions, I want us to agree that you don't ask questions which have been asked. Yeah, so that we make progress. So let's start with the Honorable Dr. Lilian Gogo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I want to thank the Honorable CS Treasury in National Planning for the kind of engagement that you have with Wananchi, especially in demystifying your office and making you be easily accessed by Wananchi, because that's a very, very sensitive office. There was this mention of the contingency fund. And is there a possibility that it could be used, especially when we have disasters like what has happened today in